Constellation, Last Stand's conversational podcast, is sponsored by Manscaped, the experts in men's grooming. My friends, Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0, complete with its anti-chafing ball deodorant and crop-reviving ball toner, really, is a clutch purchase. One I have used personally with great satisfaction over the years, long before the vaunted 4.0 set I humbly present to you today. I love Manscaped, and I think you will too. High-quality grooming gear for men that truly gets the job done. I speak from experience. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CON at manscaped.com. That's code CON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com with the code CON. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by my brother, Dagan Moriarty. Dagan, good to see you today, my friend. How are you?
I thought you were going to slide off into your Louisiana, Southern gentleman.
We got a saying down here. Oh my God, is he going to say something racist next? No one knows.
Probably.
What's going on, my friend?
Everything's good. Looking forward to a little bit of, we have a 3-day spring break in our school district. We don't get a proper week off.
Oh, wow.
Which has been a thing, like a legacy for years now. And it's just
so like Thursday, Friday, you got to go to school, something like that.
Yeah, Monday, the kids are off. The kids were actually off Thursday, Friday, and they're off Monday. Helene is off just today. She had a day yesterday and she has to go back on Monday. So, because she's a teacher, if you guys don't know out there. So, yeah. And I just never get used to this. You know, it's like most people are off down to the shore, maybe on a little vacation, and we're just here. You know, we're just stuck at home.
I'm thinking of Helene going back to high school, like Strangers with Candy or something like that.
That's a great idea for a knockback topic.
Dude. Are either of you, and we have let's get them involved. MrMattyPlays.
Hi.
How are you today, my friend?
Doing well. I'm fresh out of the chiropractor, so I'm doing extremely well, actually. Yeah.
That's so funny you say that, because I forgot to bring this up on Sacred Symbols, but I'll bring it up here. Someone wrote in. We get all sorts of DMs from people, right? Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can find this DM.
I saw this DM.
Yeah, and I meant to bring it up because I was going to talk about it. I don't know where. Oh yeah, here it is. Andrew Johnson wrote into us. He actually just wrote it on. So he didn't write into anywhere where I was supposed to be saying his name, I guess. But he says, "Hi, Colin. Just watch the live show. Excellent stuff. Please consider seeing a chiropractor. Your neck looks very out of alignment. It will cause significant issues when you're older, but it is an easy, relatively pain-free fix. Just looking out for you. Be well, and thanks for everything." I never responded to him. I should respond to him right now. Hey, Andrew.
Is this a chiropractor?
Thank you.
Do you think?
Thank you for. Yeah, he is. It says he is a chiropractor. Thank you for thinking of me. What do you recommend? We're talking about this.
How can he tell?
Right now on Constellation.
It's got like the neck whisperer.
There we go.
I know this isn't a topic, but even the mention of chiropractors are going to elicit many types of responses in the comments. There are people immediately that are going to say,
yeah, they hate them. There's a lot of people that hate them.
Right?
A lot of people hate them. A lot of people think that they can cure the common cold. I've seen it all with chiropractors. I saw a documentary
about that, actually, which was pretty interesting about the hate of chiropractors. Go on.
Some of them are totally quacks. 100%.
I went to one before this. He did not snap me, but 100%. Guy was a scam artist.
Really?
But dude, I've had a guy, so I have jaw problems, and in I think it was when I was in college, I woke up one day and I slept weird and I couldn't fully close my jaw without resistance. Wow. I was panicked. And I happened to already be going to the chiropractor, and he fixed me. He grabbed it just went, and then it was total. It's never been a problem since. And so, yeah, there are some quacks, but mine has legitimately healed me before. So
yeah, the reason I started going, I had a bad pinched nerve in my neck, man. Like I've had pinched nerves before where, you look over your shoulder, that kind of stings. This one was like, I felt I could only go in a mild direction. If anyone watched my videos that week, if you saw my eyes pop out of my head while I was recording, it's probably because I just got a shot of pain down my neck that hurt like a bitch. And I was trying not to yell over it. So I go to this chiropractor because I'm like desperate at this point. I was one of those people who was like, I don't want to get snapped and stuff, but this dude just popped me, and within a day, like I was good. It was incredible. So it doesn't work for everybody, but for me, like, you know, we got x-rays on my neck and we're seeing how to restore the curve and working on that, and it's honestly been great. It's been very helpful. For me, it's also the lower back. When I hurt that last summer, like I really haven't gone on like a jog or done anything rigorous in the terms of physical activity in now almost a year. And I'm like, I want to get back to my life, man. That's what I told him. I was like, I want to go do my thing. So he's been helping me out for sure.
Cool, man. Yeah, it reminds me, I don't know if you remember, Dag, our mom went to a chiropractor when I was like very little, and I used to go with her. So this was in like the late 80s, early 90s. I would go with her, and I was horrified because it was like watching Steven Seagal working on your mom or something. You know? Because he got back just like snapping her neck and doing all these things. But he used to let me sit. I remember that they used to let me, they would like work on me a little bit as a little kid. I guess just for like, you know, whatever. But I would not let them do the neck thing to me.
It's scary.
It's like, dude, I don't know about any of that, but
I like it.
I've never had a massage or really gone as an adult to a chiropractor. My body is so fucked up. Like, I could just feel it when I play drums. I don't know if you guys know who Buddy Rich is. He's like the old famous drummer. And the older he got, the more he became like a fucking turtle, basically. Oh, and I find myself playing drums like that sometimes, where I'm like
humpback.
Yeah. You know, and I'm like, holy shit, sit up straight. What are you doing?
I do wonder about that. Like, do I know? It's like vision. You get so used to your shitty vision that just becomes
going to
normal.
get clipped for sure, man.
Yeah. But I'm so scared of getting cracked. But I do feel like there's probably, I don't know what I'm missing, because once they adjust me, I'll be like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to feel. But I'm terrified of it. I think of Steven Seagal too, action movie, neck snapping.
Just the cook.
Not good. Not good.
I went to a chiropractor once growing up, a bad one. I said there are good and bad ones. One of them, I was getting over a cold or something, and he told my mom, I think I had strep throat. He said, next time he's sick, bring him here first. Because cracking my fucking neck is going to heal my strep throat, the bacteria in my throat, because that makes sense. Some of them are wild, straight up. Yeah. But there's different practices of them, and some are good and some are bad. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
It's all good. I mean, and Dustin Furman, that's you, executive producer. Welcome. It's all, I'm totally open-minded to it. I've just never done it. And I really want to go, I want to get a massage at some point too, just because I'm very ticklish. I'm one of those people where if you just graze me, it's like you have to really touch me with a lot of force.
They do. I've got a massage. I need
to have like a strong man. Man hands.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Colin. Do you want I've never had one either. And there's this thing in my back of my mind, like, what if I go get a massage? I'm mostly naked, and it's this young, attractive woman walks in to rub me down. At that point, my body.
Then your career's over.
Dude. And so it's like, do you need a man? If you're straight, then do you want the opposite, gender, whatever to avoid?
Depends on what kind of massage you're getting.
It's a sensual thing no matter what, regardless of what parts.
Is it?
I would imagine.
You don't even have a happy ending.
I went to a spa last year for my birthday, and I requested a male masseuse. I was there with my fiance, so I was like, kind of out of respect, I might be like, hey, give me a woman, please. So because I didn't know how stripped down I had to also get, but I mean, you can definitely request who works your body. I mean, as Colin mentioned, forceful. I mean, they are like, he did something weird with my hands where he like grabbed my finger, and he like, when he like ran down it like popped. It was, I don't know how he did it, but he did it for each finger. And it was incredible. It just got the blood flowing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It probably feels
work your body like
blood's going to be flowing.
Yeah. I can imagine that. I'll probably feel like a totally new person.
Yes.
Like everything's all fucked up. I'm all dying and eldritch inside, and they're like snapping all these things and making the blood move and all of these different things. Yeah, it's something I really got to look into, because I don't do it. And I know like I can feel myself playing drums just curling into a snail-like position.
You could feel it, but how did Andrew see it? What was the give? What was the tell?
I don't know, because that's what I wanted to bring up on the show, and I will just talk about it here, is because it's like people on the internet say everything, right? The first thing that comes to their mind, they say it. So that's why I know when something is wrong with the show is I usually go and look at it'll be discovered very quickly, right? Or if you're like looking weird or fucking tired, someone's going to tell you.
Yeah.
Always. So the fact that no one ever said that about my neck, I was like, no one has ever. Usually people write in, they're worried about this. They're worried about my sleep. They're worried about my fucking eyes. They're worried about that. But no one's ever said anything about my neck. So I don't know if what was his name?
Is it
I'm already
Andrew?
off of it.
Andrew, I think.
I think his name is Andrew Johnson. Yeah, Andrew Johnson, the Abraham Lincoln's vice president, writing in here and talking about all these different sorts of things. I just I don't know. So Andrew, if you're listening, I already DM'd you too, so hopefully you get back to me. I don't know.
He will.
But I meant to talk about it on Sacred Symbols. We have that seemed appropriate for Sacred Symbols, a 30-minute medical talk.
Yeah.
Would have, I think, been perfect for that show. All right, my friends. Well, welcome. It's good to be with this group of people and good to see all of you, especially if I'm being honest, it's especially good to see Matty because I don't get to see him very often. He's got his Mace Windu sweatshirt on.
Oh yeah,
great,
nice,
looking stylish. Appreciate that. We have 4 good topics and 3 good guests because I'm not a very good guest, but we have 4 good topics, and I'm looking at them here. You know what, Matty? Your topic speaks to me. I'm curious because we did a topic on owning a house and how fraught and nightmarish that's been for me in some sense, although it's great too. But I'm curious about your topic of buying a house. Like what comes to mind for you and what you're doing. I'm curious because I've been trying to push everyone in my company to buy a house.
I thought of you right away.
Yeah. Because I just think it's so vital. It's just a good decision. And if you can afford it. So talk to me about what you're thinking.
Yeah. So this week we actually, a little backstory. Laylee and I have been looking for a place for a good couple of months now. And we put an offer out on one and it didn't get accepted. We were like, okay. So we got back to the market. We were seeing 3 houses. I think it was like last week. And the first 2 houses were just stinkers, man. And then the third one, like, we love this house. And so we put an offer in, and long story short, it got accepted. So we're actually going to get the house like we really wanted, which is super exciting. It's got to go through inspection, all that.
Congratulations. That's great.
I'm thrilled. Thank you. And so, I'm a 28-year-old man. I have lived at home for my entire life. Like, I never dormed at college or anything like that. So I've developed my own independent skills just by nature of growing up. But this is a big step for me, quite frankly, and I'm very, very excited about it. But I guess what I wanted to talk about was the number one. I guess it might leak a bit into maybe a topic you all discovered earlier, which is like owning a home. What tips can you give me on being a house owner? Because I remember Dustin specifically one time saying, like, you kind of look around and want to fix things, right? And so I'm wondering, like, how that kicks in. I'm just wondering, like, what skills I'll need to develop. Will I become a handyman overnight? How obsessive will I get? And of course, you guys going through your own house buying processes, because I feel like, I've been tabbing through Reddit with Laylee, and we're reading all these experiences with like real estate agents and whatnot, and how awful it can be. And we feel like we've been really lucky with the people who are handling us. They've been fantastic. So I'm curious if there's any house buying nightmares or any last minute surprises. Just kind of coach me in life here. Like, talk to me like I'm 10, pretty much. Whoever wants to go first, just, again, speak to me like I'm a young child who's doing this for the first time, because it's true.
Well, yeah. I mean, what comes to mind for me is, obviously you want to get you got it pre-approved for your mortgage, I assume.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you have a rate or whatever, which is good. And rates are going to be pretty high right now, but I think in the next few years, you'll probably immediately be able to refinance your loan as the economy improves, which is good. It's too bad that you're buying now, but in from that perspective, but it was so much worse. Like, let's say in the 80s, people were often paying 8 or 9 or 10% or more on their mortgages, which is fucking nuts. But houses were way cheaper then.
That's true. Yes.
In real money.
Yeah.
You could buy a house for like literally $40,000. So it wasn't like that. And that it just, houses don't, obviously inflation has eroded the value of the dollar, but they haven't kept up. Houses are just so expensive. So I'll be straight with you. Like, my house, this is how crazy it's gotten, is like, I have a new build, but my house was $380,000. And it is, according to Zillow, worth over $500,000 now. And that doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, why? It's a pretty big house, but it's not anything super special. There's a bunch of other options. So I think that the housing market is a little out of control right now too. And so I think about that. But the thing for me, Matty, that I've embraced, and I don't know what your tolerance is for this, but I can't do anything with handy things. I'm a fucking complete moron.
I feel the same way. That's right. And I've tried. My dad is the biggest handyman I know, which is, I know, a very dad thing, but I mean, like anything. It's just, hey, can you help? Yep. And it's like, I don't know if I got that in my DNA, man. Like, I think I missed that gene, unfortunately. So I'm a little scared.
Dagan and I both did too. I mean, me to a much greater extent, because our dad is very similar, and I didn't get any of it.
No.
But I've embraced just hiring people to do things. Now, I take care of the lawn and like mow the lawn and do like odds and ends or whatever. But when we have to like install something or have to build something or I'm hiring someone to do this. I'm not fucking doing anything, or like painting or whatever. No way am I doing anything like that. And the one or two things that I try to do myself, I fucking botched straight up. I tried to put up a shelf, like hang a shelf in our like opening corridor there, and I totally fucked the wall up when I did it. I was like, see, like, it's not just, some people are just not made for it. So in my opinion, things like TaskRabbit and that sort of thing are like really interesting, because you can.
What is that? Is that like
it's like an app where you can like hire people to like hang a TV, hire people to do this or that, and and they have like a rate and they get reviewed by people and all that. And there are other similar, like Angie's List,
like
I think, is a
DoorDash for building stuff. Is that kind of
kind of? It's a little more sophisticated in the sense, but it kind of is like that, because you basically just make contact with these people and they have a rate and the schedule, and you get on their schedule and they come and do the things for you. So
that's cool.
I first used them in San Francisco. In 2010 or 2011, I bought my first elliptical, because everyone knows I love ellipticals. That was the beginning of my love of ellipticals. And Greg and I were carrying it up the stairs and dropped it through the wall in the hallway of our apartment building, and it just went straight through the wall. And and we lived upstairs. Like we didn't live in a building. We lived like our landlord was upstairs, so it was just us and that and them. And he was really nice or whatever. But I was like, I'm gonna get someone on it immediately. And I went and found this dude on TaskRabbit, and he came over. And what I remember about him is that he fixed it, and then I paid him like $100 or whatever it was, $150, and then he was like, anywhere good to get a burrito around here? I'll never forget that. And I was like, yeah, there's a great place right down the street. That's like my memory of that dude. So it's a good service. I think it's cool that people try to do things. You see those like during hockey, right? You see the very aspirational Lowe's or Home Depot. Go do it yourself. You're gonna you and your wife are going in and getting grout and getting all these things. I don't fucking think so. Sorry. So I think you have to just kind of choose your lane. And I don't think there's I personally don't think there's any shame in it. If people I look at some of these things, like these flyers I get in the mail from people, and I'm like, man, you could really use a writer, right? Not everyone can write. Well, I can't use a fucking hammer.
I hear that.
Yeah, I always hit my thumb.
Yeah. So that's my high end advice is if you want something done right, you really should rely on someone to do it. Like, and find the right people. I've worked with some dipshit assholes, and that's another thing, is like, it seems a fact of life in the contracting space and in the home space that there's just a bunch of shysters and assholes. And you just have to navigate and find the good people and gleam onto those people for all you have. Like, once I found good landscaping people that do, hardscaping and all that, I just put my arms around them. I'm like, you can't go. I can't let you go. And when we found a good pool company, because our pool company, as I went on and on and on these shows over the last couple of years, our pool company fucking sucked. And we finally found like a pool company that we can deal with. So we're like, oh, you can't go anywhere. So you got to also find your people and work through that as well. Because I can't believe, I told a story last week about, and I don't know if it was on Sacred Symbols or something, we got like mosquito spray, like our yard sprayed for mosquitoes, and they do that with an air pack, like a blower, and they just blew out our gardens, like, and there was just wood chips like everywhere.
I hate that.
Wow. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would you think that that's okay? And so that's kind of person you're dealing with sometimes in these spaces and in all spaces. Okay. Like, I would have never dreamed of doing that. Right. If that was my job. So like, you're dealing with people that you can't even comprehend sometimes. Okay. And so you kind of just got to roll with the punches. And I will say that our dad would now come in and say, well, that's why you got to be self-sufficient. But I'm like, I got video games to play.
That's my job.
Yeah. So just leave me alone. So that's my advice. Dave, do you have anything you want to throw in here for Matty?
Yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack with this, Matty. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Have you guys reached the home inspection stage yet?
That is this morning. Or I'm sorry, in 2 hours from now.
You're shitting me.
And then tomorrow morning as well.
Oh, okay.
Very excited. Are you going to go? You're going to go in with the guy and walk through?
Tomorrow I am. Today I obviously
he's
I'm
on his own.
occupied.
He's left to his own. That's a
No,
fascinating.
Laylee will be with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, he's not on his own.
Okay.
She's gonna follow him around. Her dad's on the task too. Talking over, asking those questions. Right. I'll be there next day.
That's a fascinating part of the process. I mean, listen.
Indeed.
I'm a guy who's been around the block, right? I've gone through a lot in my life already. Got married, had a couple of kiddos. I work in a very uncertain, unstable industry, live that nomadic lifestyle, jumping from job to job with animation. Been through some stressful things is what I'm saying. Some life things that everybody's like, oh, that was one of the most stressful times of my life. I remember taking our first kid home, our daughter home, in the car seat for the first time from the hospital. That was one of the most memorable experiences in a fraught with stress way that I could possibly remember. But I don't think I've ever been as stressed out as the 2 times we bought a house, the first time and the second time. And of course, we bought a house twice. We sold the house once. And in those limited experiences, I could probably write a book. I mean, we went through so much, especially with looking for a second house. But the upside is you learn a lot. You learn so much. And as Colin said, the apple fell very far from the tree, very far from the handy tree with our dad, right? Like he's like a master woodworker, a master carpenter. He pretty much knows every aspect of do it yourself, DIY master. He acts like he's not embarrassed of us. He low-key is embarrassed of us, but he pretends to be polite about it.
I always say I'm dad's least favorite. I mean, there's like no...
He pretends to be polite.
I'm mom's favorite, but I'm definitely dad's least favorite.
Highs and lows.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
But the thing is, like you, Matty, you have your dad, to call in. You call in the troops when you need, and they can impart their knowledge too, which is,
and he's local, right?
Yeah,
obviously, because you're right.
That's huge.
Right. You live at home, and your parent. I mean, this is probing, but are your parents together?
Yeah, no problem asking. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So yeah, your dad is local, which is awesome because that's not an advantage that either of us have had, right? Because I think that maybe things would have gone differently for me if if my dad could have been there, like vetting companies and I could have. Our dad just built a house in the Hamptons a few years ago, like a new house, and I can only imagine what he was doing on that site, like watching over these guys and fucking like I can only imagine how obnoxious that was, and it was the exact opposite with me. I mean, you could tell me anything.
Well, I remember I'm walking through. They could tell me anything. They could lie to me. I'd be like, "All right, sounds good." Like I would totally eat it up.
Yeah, that's why the inspection is so interesting.
Inspection is going to be fascinating for you. A fascinating part of the process. That's one of the things I remember about buying the house both times was the amount. Especially, we bought our first home. There's a couple of things I wanted to say to you about this. We bought our first home in 2004.
Okay,
and the first thing I thought of when you emailed this topic was, I can't believe how far things have come. I won't tell you what we paid for that house, but let me tell you, that is now a bygone era. And that was less than 20 years ago. There is no way you're buying a home anywhere in the country for as low as we paid for that house. And it's only been a couple of decades. I think that's so sad for young people because I remember thinking in 2004, like, this is a lot of money. And I can't believe how rapidly the housing market has blown up. Even if you guys think back to 2008 through 2010 with the housing bubble bursting and everything, it seems to have gone right back to that. Not in some, whatever they were doing with the mortgage hijinks, but in other ways now, just with the sheer cost of shit. Right now, our second house we bought in late 2011. And it was much more than the first house. But our home in less than 10 years has doubled in value now. To the point where I'll tell you guys now, thinking about moving to a third home, if we stayed in the Northeast, there's no way we could actually move up. Now, we could size down. But in order to buy a new home, we're talking like $1.5 million to $2 million if we're going to upgrade significantly. Now, I don't live in a huge, tremendous mansion. I live in a 3,000 square foot house. It's very nice. It's on maybe a third of an acre.
I like your house a lot.
Beautiful neighborhood. It's a beautiful house built in the late 80s, but it's not opulent in any way. But all I'm saying is, I don't think, especially somebody of like relatively modest means, I'm an animator, my wife's a teacher, there's no way we could go up from here significantly, because we literally, we go to neighborhoods where we're like, this would be amazing. And it's like $1.52 million for, let's say, a 4,500 square foot house to 5,000 square foot. A beautiful house. But these houses used to be $600,000-$700,000 maybe 15 years ago. That's how much it's gone up. So there's always a time perspective involved. I feel like our dad, I remember when we bought our first house, let's say the mortgage rate then was 4.5%, right? Pretty modest, not bad. It's a lot lower now, especially if you refi. But I remember him saying exactly what Colin was talking about. Like, wow, in the 70s into the early 80s, we were paying 14% APR. Now the housing prices were much lower then, so it sort of balances out the scale.
Well, that was the whole idea, was to make it hard to borrow, so prices, would stabilize, but
so people could afford
the
entire thing.
Yeah, like what, Matty? This is a probing question too. Do you know your interest rate? You don't have to tell us, but do you know what it is?
6%. Yeah,
6%. Yeah, so that's about right.
Went up a lot.
No, I know, because they're raising it by a basis, 0.25% every quarter at least.
Yes.
So the rate at the Fed, so the rates are going up, because I got a 30-year. So I'm being honest and open, because I'm trying to give you advice. So I'm not trying to like tell you too much. I'm just trying to give you, so tell me if it's too much information.
Do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Okay. So I put half down when I bought my house, and then got a 30-year mortgage. So did like two polar opposite style things, because I was trying to take advantage of, like, people were like, it's stupid to even put this much money down. Rates are so low and inflation is flat at that time that you might as well just seal it in and just have this, whatever it would be, $2,000 a month payment for 30 years. Who gives a shit? Because that money is going to erode so much over time. I was like, no, I don't want to have that much money. So I cut it down and then got an extended mortgage, because I could have done a 10-year mortgage, which is what I originally wanted to do, but that's very aggressive.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I can still treat it, and am still treating it like a sub 10-year mortgage by paying it off aggressively, just at a much lower rate. So I ask you about your rate just because I got my rate at 30 years, which is the worst possible rate you can get. That's going to be the highest rate, the most aggressive rate at 3%, 3.2%, something like that. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is how much things have changed.
It really
how much
has.
the value of the house has been squeezed by inflation, and how the Fed has raised interest rates to make it more difficult. So for you, Matty, my big advice is to like literally just really keep an eye on refinancing, I would assume.
100.
You know that already, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it is super pricey right now. And, we looked at the house we're getting, and like, Redfins, like, they have the history of when the house was last sold, and like, we're definitely paying a decent amount more. But eventually, like, now that we've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of houses together, you kind of realize, I guess it's the nature of the market in general anywhere, but like, when you want something good in like a nice neighborhood, like nowadays, you just got to really pay for it, like like status.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but I'm lucky to have the living I do where I can afford it. But yeah, it is like super pricey, and I'm really, when it comes to the financial side, I do feel comfortable enough where like, that's not going to be a problem. We didn't want to buy a headache, right? Like, living paycheck to paycheck. The agreed upon goal was, let's get a house we're both happy with, that's spacious, but isn't going to stop us from, if we want to go out to dinner, if we want to go on vacation, or we want to do something that we just can't because we got to pay the mortgage. Like,
that's called being house poor. You don't want that.
Sure. No,
exactly.
Definitely not.
Constellation, Last Stand's conversational podcast, is sponsored by Manscaped, the experts in men's grooming. Learn more about their amazing performance package and all of their various wares at manscaped.com using the checkout code CON. So we all hail from apes, and perhaps in that context, it's not too surprising that we have a lot of body hair to deal with, especially we men, what with our out-of-control nether regions and all. The reality is this: we've all had a close call, or perhaps more than that, when shaving our balls. And Manscaped's entire line of products revolves around making sure we never have to repeat such a dastardly mistake again. None of us. Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 is all you need to get your grooming situation in ship-shape condition. With the aptly named Lawnmower 4.0 buzzer, You can safely and effectively take care of down there without cringing the whole time, waiting for a gusher. And speaking from personal experience, the lawnmower works great to trim your armpit hair and even clean up your beard too. It's awesome. I have 3 of them around the house from various generations. We even use it on one of our Boston Terrier's paws, so she stopped sliding around the house like Tom Cruise in Risky Business. Better yet, the Performance Package 4.0 also comes with an ear and nose hair buzzer too, the Weed Whacker 4.0, which can be safely and easily used up your nostrils and within your ear holes. This is another device I have multiple of around the house and have used a couple of times a week for a few years now, without so much as a snag. Literally, because you won't have your hair get snagged and pulled like cheaper, lower quality devices can, will, and do. My friends, Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0, complete with its anti-chafing ball deodorant and crop-reviving ball toner, really, is a clutch purchase. One I have used personally with great satisfaction over the years, long before the vaunted 4.0 set I humbly present to you today. I love Manscaped, and I think you will too. High-quality grooming gear for men that truly gets the job done. I speak from experience. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CON at manscaped.com. That's code CON at MANSCAPED.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com with the code CON. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Yeah, what I'm curious, and Dustin, I'm sure you could chime in on this, is like, what, like, I know the answer, if you will, of like your increased duties, but how much does that chip into the leisure time, to the work time you have when you got to manage a house, like, you know, cooking, cleaning, that type of stuff? How much does that actually eat away? Because I hear like all different stories, like, oh, it's fine, and other people are like, oh, it's a job unto itself, and I'm like, is it some people, you know, part of me being like a little OCD over their house, or is it more than that? So Dustin, I'm just curious what you think on that.
Well, it really does, I think, depend on like how new your house is and what your situation is with your partner. Because, for example, it was really tough for a while when I was at my old job and I wasn't making a lot of money. And so basically Holly and I needed to work as much as possible. And so house stuff became much more difficult. And so I know some people would view this negatively. We don't mutually, Holly and I, is that now we're in a much nicer situation where Holly, I mean, she has a job teaching voice lessons and piano lessons, but it's not full time. And she loves being able to take care of the house and do our laundry, keep up with the cleaning and stuff like that. And I know that's a very like traditional gender roles type thing. But when she got to leave her old job at being a barista at a coffee place, she was so happy. She's like, I'm so excited to just be able to work on our house, teach lessons, and be more free. Like for her, that was like a freedom element. And so that's always been nice for us, but that's of course not going to work for everybody. And I think that the hardest thing for me is also with Dagan and Colin is the lack of skills in order to keep up, particularly for Holly and I. This house is really old. This house was made in the 1800s and has just been slowly changed and had additions and stuff to it. And we love this house. This house was originally my parents' house. They bought it in 2001, I think. And so it's a very nostalgic place for me. I moved here when I was in first grade. I lived here all the way up with my parents. And then eventually when I got married, lived in an apartment for a few years. And then they sold it to Holly and I when they left for Virginia. And so as far as like upkeep and stuff, it's a weird mix because I'm somewhat in the same boat as Colin and Dagan where there's certain things that absolutely it's just worth paying someone to do. I think it was last year where the fascia got ripped off the side of my house on a windstorm. And I remember calling my dad and he's like, oh yeah, you just you get up there with a ladder, hammer that in, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no.
You lost me a ladder.
There's absolutely no way I'm doing that.
My dad would never even deign to say that to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that too, what's funny is the part of the house, I would have to put the ladder on top of our shed.
Oh my god!
So I had to get up on the shed and then on a ladder.
Game over.
And I was like, no, I'm not.
Nice broken
I'm
neck.
not doing that. I'm not doing that. But there is other stuff that we've done ourselves that initially on my own, I would say no way. And this, of course, very blessed position to have family that is into doing this stuff and willing to help. to the point where if I paid someone to do some of this stuff, they would probably be mad at me. They're like, why would you do that? I'd be willing to help you. And we could have done that. Some of the things we've done, like the downspout on the side of our house is supposed to go down into the ground, and then it disperses, and you like put a bunch of gravel in, and so the water can go in the ground. We had to totally redo that, and we did it ourselves because really it's just a matter of digging a hole, putting out this like tube thing, and then filling it with gravel. It was a lot of annoying work for 2 days in the hot summer, but it saved us thousands of dollars.
You did that when we were on ham radio. I feel like I distinctly remember you telling me that.
That sounds about right. So the other thing too, I guess this is where the opposite, I talked about Holly and I's traditional gender roles, but some of it is the opposite, where Holly is fearless when it comes to small tasks of fixing stuff around the house, where she'll be like, I think the fence needs fixed over there. And I'll say, okay, well, we'll need to talk to somebody or get someone to fix it, or have my dad. And she's like, no, I'm going to figure this out. Okay. So she's done like a giant section of our fence in our backyard just herself. Like she loves doing that stuff. And so and obviously when it comes to some of this stuff, I help her out too. Like she poured these cement steps through the gateway in our yard and was totally not afraid to do that.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I was helping in that we had to go and pick up all this cement and mixing in stuff, but she built the frame and stuff to pour it in. So she's awesome. She's got crazy skill when it comes to that stuff. So I'm very
I earnestly can't put the PSVR 2 controllers on the top. Like it's too, like I don't know how they fit. Yeah. Like I'm like turning, like a baby trying to get a toy in a fucking bin.
Yeah. Dude,
but
that's
confusing though. You see what Dustin's saying about Holly, the willingness to do it is a big part of the battle, because you'll find a way. And also YouTube is a tremendous resource for DIY anything. And you also going hand in hand with that, Matty, you'll find, like Colin was saying earlier, it's like finding a good car mechanic and just dedicating your every car transaction for the rest of your life to that one reliable person. You'll find the plumber, you'll find the electrician, you'll find the handyman, every single aspect of your home, you'll find that one person. And also, let me recommend this because this is the way for me. We used the same home inspector for every transaction we've ever had once we found him. And we bid on a lot of and looked at a lot of houses for house number 2 before we landed on this one. So we used a home inspector, this guy, Ed, at least 6 or 7 times in total. And they're a great resource because not only did this guy work for Toll Brothers, who's a big international home company who builds houses, he worked for them as a contractor before he made his bones as a home inspector. They're also a great link in to the local community of, craftsmen and tradesmen. Mm-hmm. So, and they may even do it themselves. They may even moonlight doing carpentry or doing plumbing or doing chimney sweeping or whatever discipline, they may be stonemasons or whatever. So, but at the very least, he'll know the local people to talk to for each thing. So definitely, especially if he's good, if this guy is good and reliable and seems like a solid find, then use him as a resource and let that resource domino. And then when you find the good plumber, ask that guy about who's the go-to electrician that I could really rely on in this area, and let that whole dynamic snowball, because you sound, and also, Matty, I'm looking at you and I'm channeling my younger self. You're overly worried right now.
You think?
Mm-hmm. Let me give you that peace of mind.
I think so.
You're stressing out about something because you're still inexperienced when it comes to it. But once you get a head of steam, once you get in there, you'll realize, all right, this is no big deal.
Okay.
You'll learn.
And the benefits.
I appreciate it a lot. Seriously. Because like for me, I think Dustin and I have a similar relationship dynamic. Like I'd say of the two of us, Laylee is definitely the fixer upper, the DIY, like I have the moments, but like that's her specialty. Like she'll go to the thrift shop and throw shit together. I'm just like, how the hell did you do this? But like, that's her thing. And so, like I know she'll probably have that covered a lot of the time. That's like her always number one thing. I'll be the guy who's like, oh, let's call someone. She'll be like, no, let me. allow me to do this.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have someone that can do that, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's super beneficial to you because Mike is the same way. Like she'll put things together. Things will come. We'll order something from West Elm or some random thing, and I'll be like, listen, I'll have someone from TaskRabbit or something. They'll come here and they put it together for like $20 or $30. And it's done.
Yeah. Oh wow. So that's
yeah, it could be because it's by hour or by task, and so it could be more expensive. But like when I got like a new really nice elliptical last year, and I'm like, we're not putting this together. Like someone is putting this together, and it's going to be tight, and, done with fucking real like a drill gun and all that kind of stuff. Because I think that's to be embraced. But I do think Dagan is right that you shouldn't worry too much. Let me ask you some things about your house. Like, tell me about it. Give me its vital statistics. What's the square footage? What year was it built? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms?
Yeah, we got 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths.
Nice. That's exactly what I have.
Yeah, it's. I know it's 2,000 plus square feet. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number off the dome right now.
Nice size.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's very spacious. The reason we went that high, because it's just 2 of us, but the reason we went that high with the room count is obviously I need my office for at home. She does work at home, so she needs her office space, and then we would have 1 spare bedroom for a guest or whatever. I'm in the process of negotiating that we turn it into a library, but
cool.
We're gonna see. Yeah, we're gonna see what we can do with that, because right now we're in the middle ground of get a pull-out couch for the guest.
Sure.
I was like, why are we Xing off a room so quick?
Yeah,
for the occasional person who stays over. She listened to reason. I was like, yeah, but throw the manga in there, the books in there. Got a nice little meditation room. Nothing wrong with the little decompression space. But the deck is fantastic, very spacious too, which is something I love. I've never had that. You guys would laugh if you saw like how small my bedroom is, where I do like most of my living. Quite frankly, my house has always been small, so to have a place with space where I can really just like spread out is like a dream. So I'm so excited about it. That's why I wanted to just like not get too far ahead of myself and make sure I can get from all of you like advice, tips, tricks, expectations in check. But there's a nice shed we have, sort of lawnmower there, 2-car garage, like
nice
lawn.
That's beautiful.
What's most important though is the location. It's near like a lot of main stores, but it's in a quiet area. We're not on like a main road or anything, which is nice. And the neighborhood we're in is also really nice. So, everything checks off. And then Laylee and I, this is like our superstition. We always say rain is our weather. Like on our first date, when we got engaged, et cetera, like all these big life events, it fucking poured. And so funny enough, we like this house, and as we're leaving, it starts to pour. And I literally said to her, I was like, we're going to get this house. And lo and behold, we did. It was hilarious. So
nice.
It kind of felt meant to be. I'm usually not that kind of guy, but like it did feel kind of meant to be. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. So soon enough, I'll have, by the way, because I know a lot of people have written about it, I will have good lighting for the shows finally. Which long overdue for sure, but this is what I've been waiting for. So,
this is an important element. So, is the home? What's going on with the office then?
Good question. Yeah, so the office would be retired for the time being, just because I don't want to take on too many financial burdens at once. It's like starting up from the ground up. It's like, okay, let's start with the mortgage, see how life is, what extra income we have versus what we don't have. I'm kind of excited, I'll be honest, to work from home for a little bit. The reason I didn't like working from home is, again, everything was in my bedroom. So I slept there. I would eat my meals in there. I would work in there. And then when I wanted to play games, I'd be in there. So it was like everything was in there. Whereas with this house, things would be much more spread out, where I could actually work in one room and just be somewhere else, which is sometimes all I need. But even though the commute to this office is relatively short, there has been a degree of like, all right, back in the saddle again to the office. I love what I do. So when I'm starting to feel that way, I'm like, okay, number one, I think I need a bit of a change of scenery. But number two, I think I'm ready to kind of settle down for a little bit, reorganize, restructure. And, again, like have a place at home that I can work from. The goal is to just have that office there so I can work from there and eventually get a office space like this, but a little bit better. This was a great starting area to like build out a couple of dreams, like retro rebounds, start the game and all that stuff. But now that like what I've done is grown, it's like, okay, we can kind of restructure, and maybe I don't even need this much space. And certainly things like the carpet I don't like here, and this mic saves the amount of echo this place has. So there's a couple of things that I learned by getting in here. But yeah, the office would be retired, and so the lease is up in, I think, August. Now kind of be an end of an era, so that'll be a little sad. But I'm excited for that next step, especially because I'm moving to a new state and everything. So I'm I'm excited for like new surroundings.
Where are you going?
Where are you? Oh, Connecticut. I'll be in Connecticut.
Oh, okay, so not too far.
Yeah,
Very
like
nice.
I'm still in my own typical area, I guess. But yeah, I'm excited for like new surroundings.
That's
and stuff.
exciting.
But it's gonna be a bit of a shock though, because like I said, like I've grown up in the same place for so long that once you make that move, it's gonna be, even if with all the excitement, it's still gonna be somewhat terrifying. Like even if I know everything will be okay and I'm making the right choice, it is a big leap. But once I settle in, I think it's gonna be incredible.
Oh, you're gonna love it, dude.
Oh, it's gonna be dope, dude. And I would be I mean, I don't know, maybe you won't be this way, but I would be surprised if you start working from home in a space like you're about to and ever not work from home again.
It would save me a lot of money. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, and that's what I always wanted to say is we're focusing on the what ifs and the all this and that, but I wanted to reiterate all the super positive things that you get out of owning a house, right? Like you can do whatever you want. Whenever
I have that
want
moment
to
of like, I could just wear my underwear and just like, who's going to stop me?
Right. No, totally. I do. I walk around naked all of the time, but let's go. So like multiple times a week, I walk around naked. There's no doubt about it. You can just do, your landscaping and do like a very specific aesthetic and have fun with it and be friends or friendly with neighbors. And the big thing for me is that you're no longer, although you were living at home, you were kind of cosplaying as like a Japanese salaryman for a little while, right? Like living in a small space, encumbered space. And now you're stretching out into the world a little bit, but
I love the contrast.
Yeah, I do. Exactly. I do too. But the big thing to me is that you are investing in something now. Now you are killing two birds with one stone. It is the biggest part of owning a house is that you are now paying a mortgage instead of rent or instead of this and that. And that's what I'm saying. The office space, I love living below my means. I just want a middle class life.
Like it's a nice house, but like we're not
that's all I want.
Shooting for a mansion here or anything like that.
I want a middle class life. And that's what I have, or like an upper middle class life. That's all I want. And like anything else is just kind of gravy on top. So it's cool to like pay the mortgage. Well, but you're going to put your money down and then pay the mortgage and know that, well, we're not just giving this money to a landlord, or we're not it's not just going into the ether. It's investing back into this property we own. And that I really think is the big piece of it, because the ultimate goal and why I'm so aggressive about paying my mortgage off. And of course, Micah accurately psychoanalyzing the whole situation, being like, you want that security because of your childhood with your parents before. And I'm like, I know, I get it. And she's been really accurate about it. But I want to pay it off because, dude, imagine a situation, which is what I imagine, where it's like you don't pay anything,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the property. That's it,
right? It's exactly, and your utilities, and even like I said, the solar panel thing that I did was totally to mitigate even that bill,
right?
Even though it was a big expenditure, it's like I'd rather just not have the bill, And it is a place of that for me, it comes from a place of severe paranoia, no doubt, but it's like, it's the most positive part. And that's something I really want you to embrace. That's why it's such an awesome and positive step, and why I encourage people to really try to get into it. And that's why I was talking about earlier, the numbers and how fucked up it is that I just got in at the right time. I knew COVID was going to be the right time to buy it. When we were getting into those few months, I was like, now's the time. And our family we have a realtor that we all use down here. And what's funny is that I went one day to look for houses, 3 houses, 1 hour, bought the third house that I saw. I was like, this is great. And that's because I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm like, this looks, I'm in a new build in a new neighborhood, but it was the spec house. So I didn't get to choose anything that's in here. It was the way it was, but it was brand new. And I was like, this is awesome.
That was incredible. That was head spinningly fast. I remember that. You also bought it prime time, Kyle, like prime time for interest rates and home prices too.
I knew that it was like, this is the time, when people were doing like virtual tours and all this shit, I was like, oh my God. And interest rates were collapsing. So it's just, but my experience with the real estate market here, and I live in a new neighborhood with lots of new like subdevelopments, and so there's always signs, and it's like this place from the 400s, this place from the 500s or whatever it is, and I noticed that those signs just go up and up and up and up, and I know it's going to plateau at some point, but my point is that I think there's no reason not to just get in when you can get in, because I don't think the material collapse is not going to happen in the price of the home. It's going to happen in the interest rate, which you will be able to take advantage of later.
Absolutely.
So I think it's all gravy. I'm super happy for you. It sounds like we have very similar houses, because I have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. It's like 2,500 square feet. You probably have a very similar.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in the same boat here, which is exciting.
And it's perfect, dude. For you two, it's going to be perfect. And you're going to have your office space. I'm in my office space. This is one of the bedrooms. Micah has I give her bedroom. There's a bed in there in case we have anyone staying here, but otherwise it's just her room to do whatever she wants with. So you guys have it made right now, my friend. It's so exciting. I'm thrilled for you.
I can't wait.
Underrated
the idea, the only last thing I'll throw out there is the like my parents are very like traditional, like in the sense that I had to, as a kid, like let them know well in advance, like someone's coming over, get their permission, all that stuff. I'd even say to this day, like I would have to, if I heaven forbid want to be like, yo, a friend's gonna come in for an hour, I'd have to like check, is it cool? Like that's just how they are, man. Like very protective of the space. And the idea that now I can just be like, yo, someone's coming over and it's my fucking
That's
call.
freedom, my friend. Freedom.
Oh, it's great.
Freedom.
It's a great feeling.
Some Braveheart freedom. And I was saying, Connecticut, underrated state. I don't know. Don't
it's
say
like
the
a cheap
city.
New York is why we picked it.
Well,
like,
it is.
I'm like New York born and bred, man. So like
And
when Laylee pointed out the idea, I was like, I don't know if I want to leave New York. And then I spent more time in Connecticut, I'm like, it's kind of the same, just cheaper.
Don't give away too much. Connecticut, are you in Red Sox, Connecticut, or Yankees, Connecticut?
That's a loaded question because I don't know. I don't know how it's split up like that.
Are you below the Mason-Dixon line of Connecticut? Are you in the southern?
We're still in the learning territory here, Dagan. I don't know the answer.
Give him time.
I'll say I'm in a good area.
Man, you don't feel bad. I don't know where we are in relation to Philadelphia, and I've been here for 25 years. Helene's like, do you know if Philadelphia is north or south? And then she tells me, and then asks me again in 2 months. I don't know where
it's so funny you say that, because my biggest problem growing up, and I don't know if it's because I grew up in the GPS era, but it's probably the thing I'm most ashamed of. I still use the GPS for like some local businesses and whatnot. Like I'm like not places I've been. When I've been there, all right, it's committed to memory. Sure. But when it comes to a local area, they're like, yeah, it's down this street. You just go that way, make a left. I'm just like,
you sound like me.
The GPS.
You sound exactly
my
like me.
Sense of place is terrible. Like I have lived here all my life, and I still, when I went to that chiropractor I was talking about earlier, they were like, yeah, it's across the street from this church. I'm just like, which GPS?
Yeah, it's like, you just might as well be like, it's fine.
Yeah. It's like, as long as I can Google it and put it in Apple Maps.
Let me see if I can rescue you. Can you take a metro north into New York from where you're at? Okay. You're in Southern Connecticut. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
You're in Yankees territory.
You're in Yankee territory. Okay.
Oh, no.
You got it. You can breathe.
Connecticut is an interesting place. I spent a little bit of, Dagan used to live there, but I spent a little bit of time there. My college girlfriend was from Connecticut. So I used to go there over the summers and vacations and stuff to hang out with her. And it's old money central. I'm going to tell you that much. That's where all the rich people on the East Coast live.
It's really true.
In Connecticut, yeah.
There are some spots there. Name escapes me. There's one spot though where you looked at houses and like the cheapest you could find was like 1.1 million.
Oh, I'm sure, dude. Greenwich and all that.
Connecticut is that's like the
it's beautiful.
That's like the pinky to the lip of New England.
Well said.
Yeah.
Fred.
Cool state though. Yeah. I know a lot of good people from Connecticut.
Good state.
And not a state that gets talked about very often though, because nothing happens there.
Overlooked.
No, just quiet place, and that's all I want.
Yeah, it's perfect.
For the city life and all that, so
good for you, my friend. We're all very excited for you. That was a great topic, and
thank you. I appreciate
happy to help you in any other way I can. I don't know that you and I are in the same boat as far as our expertise, I think, but
TaskRabbit was probably the best thing. That'll save my ass for the rest of my life, probably. So that's great. Yeah, I didn't even know a thing like that existed.
And you have to things like you got to get good home insurance.
Of course.
And all that. So, but that will be part of, I think, your escrow package and all. Your people will take you through that.
They won't let you not do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But just make sure to maintain that, and like if you make any material or big changes, make sure to update them with those kinds of things. Those things are important because they if you don't dot your I's and cross your T's with people like that, they won't give you shit. And I just, so, if you do an addition or something like that, like my solar panels, I definitely let them know. So that so just things like that. That's just great. Keep those things in mind. You can also put riders on your insurance, like if you want to insure your engagement ring, like we put a rider on our insurance for Micah's engagement ring and all those kinds of things, so you can use it like that too. So there's pretty cool things you can do. But
awesome, Matty.
It's gonna be great, dude. And I think it's gonna be you're just gonna embrace and love the space. And I don't know. I know not everyone agrees, but I think there is some sort of consensus. Let's say like a presidential style consensus where it's 53-47 or something. I don't know, maybe a little more extreme than that, but why are we still commuting? Why are we working in these spaces? What are we doing? Like, I think COVID really forced people to confront that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people found that they were fine working from home, especially when they have a place where you can separate it. You can have the very room you're in right now in your house.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's all I need now is what I learned. Because originally I got this place just for mental health. Because again, I was just in my room constantly. So I invested in that, and I had the extra room, and Retro Rebound was born there and all this stuff. So like it really paid off, of course, just having that space. So I don't want to forget what having the extra rooms dedicated to a business has done. But like now that I've grown, and now it's about like nurturing it, right? Like doing better podcasts, doing better videos on both channels. The game could be done at home, and it has been done at home the whole time. So it's like now it's just about nurturing it, not really, which will grow it, but like not planting new seeds to grow. It's like I got already everything going on. Like I don't need more. So I think it is time to downsize and just have like a nice, simple one-room office for everything and just go from there. And I'm also excited to get the desk Dustin has, because that was like that's like number one on the shopping list, because you sent it to me from Autonomous, which is where I got my chair. Right. When you sent me that, I was like, I don't care how much I got to pay. Autonomous is the shit. I need
Dude, it's gone
desk.
up. And what's funny is I bought this desk pre-COVID and pre-inflation boom, and it's hundreds of dollars more now, which is crazy.
Yes.
But it's worth it. A nice corner standing desk that does the, it's not like one of the crank ones. That sounds.
Yeah, mine's like a handle here. It's just like a thing that sits on my desk. It's too janky. But like watching you, I've seen you during shows. You just flip a switch, you just move your chair back, and just everything happens automatically. It's great. Like that's what I want, right? I think I'm going to do the same. Actually, you've inspired me. Yeah, because like standing desks are fantastic. I've recognized like I have more energy when I'm on my feet more, because I sit for everything, right? And that naturally so. But like we talked about this during when I did life hacks, like where I'll edit videos on the treadmill sometimes, but it's tough to do with the way the desk is oriented. So sometimes I'm like hunched over and I'm like, this can't be good for me. So I'm excited for the new furniture. I've never gamed on a couch really. I'm always in a fucking computer chair. So like just to be able to game in comfort, I think I call it the lazy boy or whatever. There's a
hell yeah.
Spread out.
Just the furniture adventure is I probably one of these times when I come back to Constellation will just be furniture.
I highly recommend Lazy Boy, the company Lazy Boy. I have this couch in my office is a Lazy Boy. The couch in our loft is a Lazy Boy. My Lazy Boy downstairs, like my recliner, is a Lazy Boy. They're great, dude. And
yes,
really, really rock solid company. You have to wait a little while to get your stuff because they build things on the fly, but
that's everything now.
But exactly, and that's highly recommended. You get what you pay for with furniture. You get what you pay for with mattresses. You get what you pay for with anything.
Yeah, you'll learn that owning a house for sure. Yeah,
definitely.
Sure. Yeah, I'm very excited for the furniture hunt. Very, very excited.
Oh, it's gonna be good shit. It's I remember being both excited when I moved into this house. You just got it, especially because it was a new build. It's like I had to buy appliances, and I was like, Jesus Christ, because not only was it a lot of money, but it was all this like management of these guys are coming this time, these guys are coming this time. That when they brought my dryer, it had they brought my washer and dryer, and the dryer had like a small dent in it, which most people would be like, take it back. I'd be like, just get the fucking thing in the house. Like I don't give a shit.
It still works.
It works, right? Like it totally works. Okay, cool. There's a dent in the dryer. Well, I don't give a shit. Just get out of here. So, and if I might recommend, buy American. Just consider it.
You got it. I have no problem supporting the American business. So let's do it.
Yeah. All right. That was a great topic. And congratulations again, Matty.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Huge.
All right. Let's go to you, Dustin, and talk about your topic today. It's a good one.
Sure. So this is something we've discussed on Sacred Symbols before to some extent. That is YouTube. But in particular, what I pitched to you guys was the YouTube rabbit hole. And this is interesting just in that, you know, we know about TikTok and Twitter and all of these have algorithms. It's all about the algorithm and how it feeds you content. It's desperate to keep you on the platform as long as possible. And what's funny about this is I feel like it is the best and worst thing ever. Because for me, at least, YouTube has become the primary go-to when I want to sit down and relax. It's not Netflix or Hulu. I want to go watch something on YouTube. Always. And it's funny because in some ways I totally feel like this is way better in that a lot of times the things that I'm looking for on YouTube can be really informative and enlightening and can, I guess, improve, or at least it feels like to me like I'm improving some part of my brain, right? Or something for our, our career in gaming or something like that. It's not always the case though. And I actually recently just mentioned a few weeks ago that I sometimes will watch videos from creators that I like, but on stuff that I don't care about just because I don't know. It's what it fed me. I mentioned I was watching an Android phone review from MKBHD just because I like his channel. It's high quality. He usually has stuff that I'm really interested in. So why not? But then you sit and then 10 minutes later you think, why did I do that? So it's cool. It's cool and it's bad at the same time. So I wrote down just some of the different rabbit holes that YouTube has taken me on. And that's kind of the other angle of this, of why I love YouTube, is that it's exposed me to things and made me interested in things I never expected to be. It's this way to get a view into either, a world, a lifestyle, or whatever that you would never be able to have exposure to before, unless you happen to see something on cable that focused on a specific thing. So specifically, the different rabbit holes that I've listed here is the gaming rabbit hole. This is the obvious. We're all going to end up watching gaming stuff, whether it's previews or reviews, whatever, something like that. But for a while, I went down a retro gaming rabbit hole that's kind of always going on, whether it's Pixel Game Squad, which I know Dagan likes them as well. Colin, you like LGR, which is
he's awesome.
Totally stuff that we you wouldn't think we'd care about. Like DOS.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, he's between him, like I say, him and 8-Bit Gamer are like my introduction to things I just don't know anything about. I love them. They're great. Yeah. It's
just interesting to be able to view into this side of something that we are into, which is, games and technology and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, this IBM computer that has Windows 98 that has a Voodoo graphics card. That sounds cool. I don't know. I'm into that. So there's these types of like the expected rabbit holes. Then, I view this as like those iceberg videos where this is the top, what you would expect. Then we get into some of what I listed as enlightening or satisfying. So Company Man, this is one that Colin and I have talked about many times. Just this guy that goes deep dives on different companies or marketing and stuff like that. Love that. One I recently got into is competitive eating. Now, I don't know if this is enlightening or satisfying, but it is interesting. This guy I've been watching, Beard Meets Food, posts a video once or twice a week and just goes around. It's almost like a travel show where he goes out and does these eating challenges. And it's become a sport almost for Holly and I to determine whether or not he's going to be able to do it, which is 90% of the time he can't. But there's been a few interesting mishaps where he wasn't able to do it. Colin, I think you and I are kind of a lot in the similar wavelengths with some of these YouTube channels, because another one is painting restoration. Baumgartner. Yeah. Just a guy that goes real in depth, 40, 50-minute videos about how he cleans paintings. And it's something that I would never seek out on my own. But you see that one thumbnail. You're like, oh, that painting went from piss yellow to being bright and vibrant. How does that happen? So there's all kinds of these things, like street food videos. I like to see that, like people cooking up different stuff. Sometimes it goes into just I guess it's not ASMR, but just the satisfying, like car detailing. There's a channel I've seen that's just all about these disgusting, nasty, with, kids with crumbs everywhere or smoke everywhere, like ash and stuff, and people going in and cleaning. That's real nice. Mm-hmm. So the two final pillars that I have are, first of all, strange but cool, which one of them is this series I like called Another Dirty Room. This is a YouTuber named Dan Bell. And the point of the show is that they go to these different towns and they find the lowest reviewed motels and hotels on Yelp. And then they go in and investigate what's so bad about them.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Dude, there's some wild shit on these. They find...
What's that one called?
Another Dirty Room.
I'm writing that down.
Great idea.
They'll find... I've seen ones where they lift up the bed and there's a heroin needle stuck in the bed itself. Vomit on the bed. There's one where the pillows, instead of washing the pillows every week, they would just put a new pillow protector on. So it was like a Russian doll, and each one they would open up, it would get more yellow inside.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So stuff like that. And that kind of coincides with, I love urban exploration videos where people go into like an abandoned mall, or there's some crazy ones that are like insane asylums and stuff like that. But the last pillar, and I want to throw this off to you guys, because I'm sure you guys have your own interesting rabbit holes as well. Because I'm pretty sure, well, we all work in YouTube stuff and we all watch that kind of thing. But the truly weird stuff, and this, of course, is deeply connected to sacred symbols now in the comprehensive history of Christian, which is now become a reoccurring thing that's brought up on sacred symbols, because I have watched all of it. I don't know if Chris has, but Chris knows a lot about Christian, and just getting this glimpse into this just insane situation, this saga that has gone on for years and years. And Geno Samuel wasn't the only YouTuber doing this kind of stuff. There's another great channel called Down the Rabbit Hole, which does these 40 to 50 minute dives on usually internet related stuff. There's a really interesting video he has called The Final Fantasy House, which was this house that people had written about, where it was like this really weird, abusive cult-like situation where all the people that lived in this house had to refer to themselves as Final Fantasy characters.
Oh my gosh.
And it was written about in legend online. So there's really good, weird stuff. Another channel, Nexpo, focuses on horror-related stuff, whether it's different fiction that's out there, like online horror stuff, or like strange stories. I love it. I love this obsession of, you find something that you are maybe just mildly interested in, and then you have this new world on YouTube. YouTube has enabled anything to become something that someone can go and create and potentially even make money on. And I find this to be such a beautiful thing, in that I think I've talked about this. I brought this up too, and this isn't even something I'm interested in, but I'm glad that it exists. There is a community on YouTube focused on documenting elevators. And I found this because there's this guy that used to come into the speakeasy that I worked at. Really strange guy, highly autistic, and very few social cues from this guy. But I found on YouTube that he goes around and films elevators. Whoa. But I was looking at the comments, and I found that there was drama amongst these different elevator YouTubers amongst the community. And they'd like have videos where they're dissing each other and stuff like that. So I'm curious what you guys think about this new world we live in, where anyone can create anything. Anything can be interesting, at least to me. And if you guys find yourself in the same type of rabbit holes just on YouTube, just delving further in sometimes to something very strange, or maybe just something satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. Dagan and I talk a lot on Knockback that I'm somewhat late to YouTube. I was making YouTube content long before, for years, beginning with IGN and Kind of Funny. Then I before I even ever watched YouTube really as a consumer.
It's true.
And what I found so appealing about YouTube and why it's my most watched platform, like I watch more YouTube than I watch anything else by far. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is because anything, if you have the ideology that anything can be interesting, which I agree with, I do believe that is true, that anything has the potential to be deeply interesting. And that's the great stuff about documentaries. Like think about a documentary Dagan and I bring up sometimes, like Grey Gardens or something like that's a really weird topic and a really weird documentary and very strangely filmed, strange targets and a very strange time in history. And it's amazing. It's completely amazing. And I often think about how one of my favorite nonfiction books of the last 20 years probably is The Great A&P, which is a history of the supermarket. That book was amazing. And so I always I love having an open mind to things like that. And I think if you do, and that's not to say if you do, you don't, you're less than or whatever. It's just that's totally fine. But if you do have that kind of mind where say you'll watch a documentary about anything, or you can turn on Nova or Frontline and it can be about anything and you'll be down with it, or 30 for 30 or something, then you have the kind of mind to really absorb what YouTube's all about. And just a few things that I've found interesting.
Please, this is what I'm interested in, because I think you and I every once in a while will be like, dude, you got to watch this. We've got a tune on each other's tastes. Like for another one, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but Hornet King. The guy that goes and removes bee nests and stuff. It's great. So Colin,
I love him. He's actually in your neck of the woods, Dake. That guy.
Oh, you told me that before.
Yeah, you can tell just by the way he talks. But he's in eastern Pennsylvania for sure, southeastern Pennsylvania. But yeah, all right. So here are mine, because I was writing down some of yours too. So bigger ones. Well, before I even say any of this, I watch a lot of politics stuff, a lot of sports stuff. That goes without saying. I mean, we don't have to get into that. Like documentaries, that kind of stuff is all bubbles to the top.
But that's the top of the iceberg that I was saying.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. Bald and Bankrupt is an amazing channel, and if you've never seen Bald and Bankrupt, I am so jealous because you have so much content to go through. It's a dude. So here's the thing about this guy. No one really knows very much about him. He's some sort of ex-British military dude, probably special ops or something. Cool. And he's fluent in Russian. Just happens to be fluent in Russian. And so he just goes around and does like crazy shit in the previous Soviet republics and in Russia. And he's actually been kicked out of a few of the countries, and the Ukraine situation has made it all very complicated. But he has just hours and hours and days worth of just hysterical and insightful and interesting voyages around places like Estonia and Latvia and really obscure ex-Soviet places. And he's obsessed with finding old Soviet mosaics and statues and factories. And he's awesome. But what's so interesting about him is that he speaks the language, and he can just easily go in and out of Russian and all these different societies easily and be one of them, and then kind of not be one of them. And he gets arrested sometimes and like brought in for questioning, and the camera goes off and they seize his content. And he's very well known. And in fact, he retired and then unretired, and he's now doing shit in like Latin America. He apparently learned Spanish just so he can go and do the same kind of shit down there now. So I don't know. He's a big one though. I got really into, this is where the more obscure shit comes in. Lawn mowing and yard work.
Yes.
So like the time lapse ones where they're just, there are guys that go and basically mow people's lawns for free, like overgrown, fucked up lawns in neighborhoods. Person's died or person's incapacitated or whatever, and then they make content out of it. So I like that shit. The people eating old food subgenre.
Dude, this is of course Steve MRE Info.
Right. Yeah. Right. So he's the big one.
So good.
And he's awesome. But there's a guy also post 10 who's interesting, and he actually goes into another subtopic as well, where it's called like New England something, his channel, but he eats old canned food, just like things, not MREs or GR, but things you're not supposed to eat because they're
New England Wildlife and More.
Right. Wait, right. No. That's the guy.
Oh yeah. I've seen this.
That's the guy.
Dude. Okay. There's some horrifying shit on this channel, but it's so good.
Van life and truck life is like a pretty common thing on YouTube and in social media. But if you fall between the cracks and just find, there's like just so many funny and interesting van life ones, including I can't remember the guy's name, but there's this old guy we watch He's got like a beard. He almost looks like Santa Claus, and he interviews random people that live in their vans or in their cars. And Mike and I like watching it and we always say when we're watching it, like, just go home. Like, some of these people are barely eking it out, and they don't have to be living like this. Like, they choose to. They're like, yeah, I live in my Prius, and then they have a so-called build or setup, but it's just like a cot, and all. It's like, oh my god, it's a great channel. Highly recommended. Fun, unintentionally funny. Drain and culvert cleaning.
You turned me on to this guy.
So Drain Addict is in Australia, and he's the cream of the crop, this guy. Because
Drain Addict.
Drain Addict, yeah.
If he doesn't clean drains, he will die.
He's so weird. Dude, you got to watch it. It's like there's a surrealism to it because he has these characters. He plays a character, and he has like a fake mouse and a fake bird, and he puts them in the shot and talks to them. It's and sometimes he releases videos that are just these very surrealist. I can't even begin to explain it. Like, it's brilliant. It's so weird. He's so weird. Drain Addict. I got to recommend him. And Post 10 is the guy that cleans culverts. He goes around New England and other places and just destroys beaver dams and just gets culverts going again for no reason other than he loves it. And that's the same guy that runs the New England channel that does the food. So he's famous for both of those things on YouTube, which is funny. I had to shout out Red Letter Media because you were talking about things that you don't care about. It is very rare that they talk about anything I care about. And I watch it. Like, when I saw that they put up another episode of their Picard reviews, I was like, yes. Because I don't give a shit about Picard. Another subtopic is body cams, police cams. Good shit. Oh my God. Unedited body and police cam footage is so good. Like, watching people's arrests. Watching high-speed chases. That's a really great and very popular subgenre. There's a channel that I really love called Below the Plains. This is a really, really good one. It's a guy in the Dakotas, and he tries to map out where there might be like refuse piles and stuff like that left behind from the colonial or like the settlement days.
Interesting.
And he digs them up. And it's really interesting. So he'll find like pits of bottles and refuse and all this kind of stuff from 1860 or whatever. It's really good.
Good shit.
Below the Plains. There's a channel we watch called Charlie Bo, who's a guy, no commentary, a guy who just drives through the worst possible neighborhoods in the United States. That's like all he does. He just drives through them.
Has he driven through Onion Town?
What is Onion Town?
Onion Town is it in New York? I'm pretty sure it's in New York. It's this place that I've heard so much about, where if you were to like drive through there, like they will shoot at you, type like lawless type of area. If you actually look up Onion Town online, like you'll hear about it. And so you just say that, I'm like, it has to be in his playlist, or at least on the list of places he wants to drive through.
It probably is. Like, I have to read into this. Yeah, I watch him. He drives to like Baltimore, Detroit, like places that look like they're abandoned. Like, this is why I say, if I had all this money, billions of dollars, I would spend my money on I would try to spend a lot of my money on restoration, like getting rid of all the blight and shit. And that's what he's driving down roads where there are 10 houses, 9 of them are abandoned crack houses, and 1 person lives there, that kind of thing.
Matty, I found it for you.
Yeah.
Onion Town is a road and community in Dutchess County, New York, United States, located 1.5 miles south of the hamlet of Dover Plains in the town of Dover, partially known for the historically off-putting demeanor of its residents towards outsiders.
Wow.
I am fascinated.
Yeah, I got to know more about Onion Town. I wrote it down too.
Really interesting place.
I am all over this as soon as we finish.
And just a couple more quick ones to get through, and I'll kick it over, is carpet cleaning videos. Mm-hmm. Very, very satisfying. There's a guy in Poland that does one. I can't even begin to say the name of it, but it's famous. People would find it if they looked it up. I watch drum videos like all day. There's a channel called Drumeo that is just so good if you're into music. There's a lot of resources there for you. Obviously, everyone knows that. I like my Japan videos, specifically certain creators. My favorite being Powell in Tokyo. He does a Day in the Life series, which is and I don't know, Dustin, if you've not watched Powell in Tokyo's Day in the Life series, you would love it. Absolutely love it. So you should definitely check it out. It's like day in the life of a Japanese game developer, day in the life of a Japanese housewife, day in the life of a Japanese salaryman.
I have seen the one for the game developer was a Square Enix artist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and they Yeah, it's good stuff. It's really, really fascinating. And he does stuff where they go behind the counter at like a ramen shop for a day or something. And it's just so good. I think you'd really, really dig that.
What is it called again?
It's called Paolo in Tokyo, Paolo in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And
from Tokyo.
Yeah, you found it?
Yeah. I'm just saying cool. It's Paolo from Tokyo, not
I'm sorry, from Tokyo. Yeah. Sorry, Paolo from. You're right. And then stealth camping is another one I really love.
Dude, that was mine.
Oh,
you've
cool.
been.
So I'll leave it.
I haven't even talked about this.
I'll leave it to you, Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll leave the whole thing with Steve Wallace to you. God. And then.
Ow.
Just two more things. Tow trucks, like people getting their shit towed and freaking out.
Oh, like that's a really good one. Or what is it? Repossessing?
Yeah, like repossessing stuff. There's some fucking bangers,
that's
dude. And the obvious one that I've been long obsessed with and always told people about is just the whole big genre, the Venn diagram of Karen videos, public freakouts, fights, and all that. That stuff is just a gold mine.
Cart narcs too. Part of that genre, somewhat.
People are starting, it's funny, cart narcs, Micah and I have been talking about this. People are starting to turn on cart narcs. Have you noticed this at all? People are starting to, the sentiment against cart narcs is actually starting to change, which I've noticed.
I don't keep up with him too much because it's almost too much for me in certain situations. There are some hilarious ones, but I can understand. Sometimes this dude's being an asshole. Yeah. So I guess we should real quick. Sorry, Dagan. We keep taking over. Cart Narcs is a funny channel where this guy finds people who don't put their carts in the cart return. And so he'll go up and he'll act like he's some kind of security and then be like, hey, you didn't put your cart back. You need to put your cart back. And then he'll if they walk away or whatever, he'll try to put a magnet on their car that says something like, I didn't put my cart back or whatever.
There's a legendary one people have to look up. It's literally called I'm a Fat Asshole.
That's the video.
It's the Cart Narcs video. Yeah. It's so I actually feel really bad for the guy in it, but it's funny. There's no doubt about that.
It's amazing. I mean, YouTube has given people an avenue to pursue their real talents or have another talent outside of what they normally would do. Like, it's amazing how many talented people there are. First of all, let me go back to Onion Town for a second. They're hiding something there. Something's going on in Onion Town, Matty, and you and I need to get to the bottom of this. I don't know how we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's always something I've seen online, but I thought for sure it would be in that archive.
What's happening? First of all, it's a town without paved roads, so I'm already in New York, which is really what is happening in this place. You speak about rabbit holes. I got a whole new rabbit hole to go down.
There you go.
Now you got it's no secret. I've been a great lover of YouTube dating back 15, 16 good years. And it started like it starts for everybody. You're pursuing the content that you're really into or interested in, right? For me, it always has been and still is skateboarding, video games, especially retro, animation, film. But that was the other thing that's come up, just like you guys in recent years. It's like pursuing the stuff or the stuff coming up in your algorithm and just like tumbling down these rabbit holes. I'm no different. Like, I'm one of those modern day Alice's just endlessly plummeting down these bottomless pits and loving every second of it. And
you've been doing it for years.
I have. I really have.
You were there really early. You really were.
I loved it. But I think it started for almost everybody. You're looking for the stuff that you're into, right? You're looking to find out more about the hobby that you're specifically enthusiastic about. But I realized very early on, I'm a mark for watching anybody talk about anything. I think as long as they're knowledgeable, passionate, and at least fairly articulate in that I could at least follow along. They don't have to be a professional YouTuber, but I'm in. I haven't found one thing that I'm not super interested in as long as it fits those criteria. And if they're funny and entertaining on top of that, that's bonus points. But for me, it's like, I learned this. We talked about this with Ben on an earlier episode when we talked about documentaries. I found out this same lesson sort of about myself when I discovered reading biographies. That's where the passion really kicked in for me. Was like, it makes sense if I want to read about a painter or a film director, kind of fits into that Dagan-esque landscape. But when I'm reading about dancers or chefs, like that doesn't make any sense. Why am I so riveted by these things that are seemingly detached from my interests, right? But I will watch literally anything. And sometimes it's something that appears in my algorithm and I just click on it and I'm like, whoa, like I'm riveted. And sometimes it's something that I watch and then I'm sent down a rabbit hole and it just snowballs. There's a domino effect. For instance, I'm watching this kid on YouTube right now. And again, this is one of those things that fits into my primary area of interest. He talks about skateboarding and the skateboard industry. This kid's name, I love this kid, so I don't mind plugging him. His name is Gifted Hater. And he's a young guy. He's like in his mid-20s. And he just basically talks about the skateboarding industry, pros, YouTube channels, skateboard YouTubers, and he critiques everything. He's very funny, but he's also very well-spoken, very articulate, and very passionate about skateboarding, and actually a good skateboarder himself. He's a solid skateboarder, so he has credibility because he could really skate. In fact, I think he has some company sponsors. But just listening to him sent me down, and binging his content, I'm always looking for something good to binge. That is my area of interest. But then there's a detachable part to that too, where it's like he'll send me off on tangents, exploring things that he's talking about, because he'll refer to something in the fashion world, and that'll send me on a little side spinning tangent. And then that, watching the fashion content, will spin me off in another direction, talking about New York celebrities and then gossip channels. And then, so it ends up becoming so far from where I started, you would never be able to even trace it back to skateboarding, which is so interesting. But I find myself going on those tangents all the time. And I think, Kyle, that's how I discovered the stealth camping thing. It was just spinning off multiple times from other stuff. So this guy that Colin and I are talking about, I think we're talking about the same dude. He basically camps oftentimes in suburban settings. So there'll be, for instance, a little patch of woods between the Chili's and the Home Depot. And he'll just camp in there for the night and try not to get discovered. And he'll make a fire and he'll eat his K rations or whatever. And he tries to avoid and dodge sort of the public eye / police, whatever. Super, super interesting. Has nothing to do with anything I'm interested in, but it's just interesting content. And I think, judging by the popularity of most of these people across the board, everything we've mentioned so far, I guess it is appealing to a very humanistic, I don't know, our very natures, right? It's like, I guess we just want to see and be entertained by stuff that maybe we thought we had no interest in. I also think there's something, I don't know if this speaks to you guys, but there's also a sentiment in this that it's one thing to follow along with something that is important to you, right? For us all, video games. For me, what's going on in animation. I love following along what's going on in indie film, the world of skateboarding, whatever, right? There's something really cool about watching the content and getting your news that way and staying up to date and all that kind of stuff. But there's also something very comforting about following and relaxing, right? About just tuning into something that it really has nothing to do with your life, something so far removed from your interests, and just decompressing with that content. It feels like, I don't know, there feels like an extra sort of aspect of relaxation in something that you're not sort of invested in with all your heart and soul, if that makes sense. And maybe that's why this content really speaks to people. I don't know. But dude, I'm such a mark for it. And like you guys too, that same sentiment of like, I don't even want to tune into a Netflix or an HBO or a Disney Plus or an Apple TV. I'm just, even sometimes when I start a movie, last night I was watching one of my favorites, The Magnificent Seven. I forgot where it was on Prime or something. probably 20 or 25 minutes in, I was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to watch some Gifted Hater stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've already watched, like, there's only so much Gifted Hater stuff. So now I'm rewatching things.
Uh-oh.
That's another thing. It's like, what is this crazy YouTube addiction? And also, I have to say, too, before I hand this over to Matty, there's something for me, too, that I think because I work such long hours and something about it keeps me going and just being able to, now I'm drawing and animating, so I really can't watch the content. That's the other thing. I actually have to treat it more like an audiobook. I'm just listening to it. So it has to be content that lends itself to that, where I could just get the meat without having to watch it. That's another sort of thing for me, which I find is most things. At least I could take it that way, where at least there's some sort of entertainment value with just an interest with just listening to it. And it gets to be, I really do think that's my one addiction and my one vice is I'm addicted to YouTube. There's times where I don't think I would animate once the kids are in bed and put another 3 to 4 hours in if I didn't have that to keep me going. It is kind of like a drug. It's very, very strange. And I'll send it off to Matty with this. There's a dad at our bus stop who I don't know very well, but I remember a couple of months ago, he was saying that his kid, who I think is a little younger than my son, so let's say his son is 10, and he was saying just off the cuff, all my son wants to watch is YouTube. And there was a part of me in my brain where I wasn't even going to engage, but then I said, you know what, that's all I watch. And I saw him, probably a guy around my age, I saw him react in a incredulous way to where I was like, who's the idiot? Is it me? Am I the idiot, or is this guy just sort of too much of a curmudgeon? You know what I mean? I didn't know. I don't know, because I think most people my age, I'm 49 years old. I'm probably on the top, the upper scale of age for YouTube. I think it's a younger kid's game,
Dude,
but that
not
was the
necessarily.
Other thing.
I found out my grandpa, which he is on the, he's almost 70 now. Okay. So I have a younger grandpa because of the generational gap with my parents and stuff. But he was telling me low key, he mentioned, he's like, Linus Tech Tips, right? And then was talking about how he's a big fan of Linus Tech Tips and stuff like that.
Didn't that guy's channel get like hijacked or some shit like that?
It did, but they fixed it really fast. Good. But so not necessarily Dagan. There's YouTube can be for.
I wonder about this, Matty. This reminded me of your topic. I was falling into a rabbit hole of a home inspection channel. Again, this was last night. I don't even know how it came up. The guy was really knowledgeable, and what he was doing was, in fact, when we're done, I'm going to go back into my history and I'm going to send it to you, because I only watched one video of his.
Please.
But he was going into a new housing development where I guess the homes were being bought. This specific client bought the home. He was going in and doing the inspection, recording it. I guess he got permission to put it on YouTube, and he was going around and just saying, like, they didn't put enough nails in here. The wiring isn't right. This looks good, but this looks bad. And again, like, something that I have really, honestly, no interest in. But I don't know what distracted me from it, but I could have watched this guy all night. It was just another one of those stark reminders of like, yeah, I guess, I don't know. I'm not going to do anything with this knowledge. That's the other thing. Right? It's like,
makes you a good conversationalist.
Yeah, you're curious. You're a polymath.
A Renaissance man.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
Matty, I'm curious to know what you think about this, because you're a successful YouTuber. So, I mean, you have an insight into this that I don't think any of us have. So I'd be curious to know what you think of the platform.
Yeah, I definitely use it very differently than you guys, just because what it is for me, it sounds like for you guys, it's almost like a decompression tool, or like I just want to learn something or whatever. For me, it's almost like a reinforcement thing. So if I find an interest of mine, I usually go to YouTube and learn different angles about it, is what I've recognized through what you guys say. Like, I don't watch, for example, like, drainage companies or home inspections. Like, I'll say it like a derogatory way. It's just like, I don't have interest in that. And so it's like, I don't care to watch it. My guilty pleasure rabbit hole is definitely fight videos though. Like that's my definitely like one more. Like if I had to point one thing out, it's 100% watching people throw hands. Like I don't know what it is. I think I just get super invested in the storyline, what led to this, how did it go down, and they all end the same. Some dude gets knocked the hell out, hits his head on the pavement. It's like, is he okay? Did he die? And then the video ends, and it's insane. So that's my guilty pleasure for sure. That has nothing to do with it. But otherwise, like, for example, I love baseball. I brought this up before, but probably my number one most recommended channel to anyone who's a sports fan is always John Boy Media. Like, I just think the breakdowns they do, like this video, Tim Anderson ejected after botched pitch clock violation. So like baseball introduced this, I think, stupid pitch clock. And so it's a very controversial rule set. And John Boy Media is this kind of startup YouTube channel that's competing with these big like Yes Network and ESPN, but they're on YouTube. Like that's their central location. They bring in, like they just brought in Trey Turner. Like they bring in these professional players as if they are a legitimate, because they are a legit brand, but because of where they're hosted, they're not really treated as such. So that, you know, they'll curse in their videos and stuff during breakdowns. It's like finally getting sports analysis without all of the hoity-toity, he's a great player. It's like, no, like they'll just talk to you like it's one of your friends. And they'll break down all these plays, like Bunting gets a penalty for flopping and being a pest, a breakdown. Their breakdowns are fantastic. So for me as a sports fan, it's like I watch the game and then you kind of think, oh, I can't wait to see John Boy break that down. Like that crazy play there, that weird thing there. And typically they do. So to me, that's like the, if you will, out of my typical interest of like games, anime, that type of stuff that I go to. Like I love John Boy. But like I said, it's like a reinforcement thing. Like I love sports. So this is just more of that. I love wrestling. Like I rediscovered my love for professional wrestling like 4 or 5 years ago. And so like there's a small channel I watch called Tranquilo Club, which is like this kind of just like conversational videos about things happening in AEW. And I like that stuff. Like, just someone who's a much more like, I never looked at professional wrestling as this like storytelling tool or any of this stuff. So to me, like watching that channel opened my eyes to like what it means to people, and it enhanced my way of receiving the weekly show I watch. I watch AEW every week. It's a 2-hour show on Wednesday nights. I literally have a pattern. It's like DD, send in the episode details, go home, AEW, and just kind of kick my feet up. And that's like my decompression.
Okay.
But then there's this one I think you guys would like. It's called WSC Stage Creator. And this dude takes wrestling action figures and actually makes like stop motion films with them and storylines, but they're like insane matches. I'm trying to think of one here.
Watching this one
because there was one where like there was a shower match or something, and they were like fighting in the shower, and he gets creative and he'll bring in like the Spider-Man action figures, and he has like a commentator, and there are these really entertaining matches, but they're hilarious and stupid. I highly recommend this channel. Again, WSC Stage Creator. But again, like because I love wrestling, it brought me to this thing that just kind of expanded my love of it, because I grew up with wrestling action figures, and I would make up these stories and these matches, but this guy just makes a production out of it and really like sells the moves. Like they're great. Like he changes the camera angles and they're digestible. Like for me, my thing with YouTube is, I think the problem really started when like I started working on my game. Is a lot of my, when I put a cap to my work day, like a lot of my free time will end up going to that before I start just playing games. So I got to kind of manage it wisely. So when I go into YouTube, I can't either go down a super big rabbit hole, not only because I don't want to, but I just don't really have the time to and the desire to, but also I need something that's like quick and digestible. So like WSC Stage Creator, like I think the longest video here is like 20 something minutes. And like, it's usually when I'm eating.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll throw something on.
Yeah.
And then again, just more on that expansive content. Like I love Star Wars. Like I know a lot of people are like, Star Wars is going down the hill. It sucks now. I said it today when I saw the Ahsoka trailer. I was like, there's just something about it that warms the soul. Like I heard the music and I'm like, man, no matter what you guys do, I'm still gonna come back around.
It's so much.
And it is so
it's
much.
So
exactly.
much.
That's my
but
other
that trailer
problem.
looks good. I don't want to be fooled again, though, Matty.
Yeah, I get it. Right. And look, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm very behind. Like, to watch that, it's like the sequel to the animated Rebels series. I'm still working on Clone Wars. There's so much I want to read and watch. So to me, like, YouTube is the very quick alternative. And honestly, I'm starting to weed it out. And Dustin will relate to this. Like, One Piece is an adventure. You need to, in my opinion, I need to be very efficient with my consumption of episodes. So like, I'm slowly starting to put
is a lifestyle.
It is. And I'm like starting to put, okay, it's time to eat lunch. I got time for an episode. Not going to watch a video. I got time for a quick 20-minute episode. And so maybe it's like structuring your life too hard, but I kind of like that efficiency. But to my Star Wars example, like, I watch a channel called Star Wars Explained. Like, I love this dude's passion, his adoration for Star Wars. He does it with his wife, Molly. And they just sit down and, like, they're at the Star Wars Celebration event in Europe right now. Like, they're in their hotel room just recording their reactions to everything. And I don't like manufactured positivity. Like, I like a more authentic reaction, but they're authentically happy with Star Wars. Like, they're not doing it because it's views. They're not doing it. In my interpretation as a creator, because I feel like that's my benefit. I can see through when someone's just bullshitting.
Yeah.
And when someone's just, I'm sure you guys have the same thing. Like, I feel like I can see when someone's full of shit and when someone genuinely, authentically loves what they're talking about.
Sure.
And like, they love Star Wars. Like, it's not like they read the books, they review them, they do the comics, they do the shows, episodic reviews for them, full season reviews, previews on the games. Like, they played Jedi Survivor, like, just all Star Wars. And they go into the minutia of it because, like, the lore of Star Wars is so rich. So for me, like, that's what YouTube is. Like, I don't know if I go down the rabbit hole, but if I like something, then I'll look for people talking about it, and that'll lead me to, like, a greater appreciation of it. Because it kind of goes into what Colin said, like, that open mind. Like, you go in like, admitting, I don't know everything about this, and you want to. And so you become like a student of the game. Again, Star Wars Explained could talk me into a corner about Star Wars. I'd like to say I know a decent amount, but they would rinse me, right? And so it's like, I'm a student of the game. Like, I want to hear what they got to say. Feed me all that information. Because like to them, you know, I think it's just how I was brought up. Like, you could put me in a history class and, like, I pay attention. I liked history, but, like, if you were to put me in, like, a Star Wars class, I'd be an A+ student.
They should have that. They should definitely.
That'd be great, but that'd be too idealistic. So yeah, I apologize. I don't have a lot of channels to recommend like you guys do, but I think it's because I consume it very differently.
I like your discipline, Matty. I will say that. I did remember this, guys. I have to say, not to put a negative spin on this, but I have found one channel that I realized within like 2 minutes, like, this is not for me once. And this was only a couple of days ago, and I almost threw up. And I should have realized it was my fault. I should have realized this wasn't for me. I don't even what made me click on it, but I found a hunting channel. Okay. And when I saw it in my algorithm, my first thing was like, this, how popular is this? It had millions of followers, and this specific video had almost 1 million views. And then that made sense to me, just in the United States alone, serving, catering to a certain base. It made sense. And I think that compelled me a little bit. I clicked on it, and it was basically a hunter and his daughter talking about the channel growing, and we're hitting 1 million subscribers and everything like that. And they looked like very regular people. And just for this little monologue they did as an intro to their video, very articulate, very likable, right? They didn't seem like Yahoo gun nuts or whatever type of thing. And again, I don't like guns. So very, very anti Dagan. I don't know what compelled me, but it went on to be a cut of, they're like international hunters. Like, they hunt everything. And it was a takedown of everything that they hunted. And it started more, I guess, relatable, pedestrian, or what you would think: deer, rabbits. And then it quickly escalated up to bears. And it was upsetting for me. And I'm not judging hunting. It's more for my personality, like the animal, the shocked that, what just happened type of thing. And then the animals themselves started to escalate until it was like a headshot of a giraffe. And I was like, dude, it quickly, this was less than a minute in. I was like, is this even legal? Like, because I don't know what the rules are with hunting and safaris and all this kind of shit. until it was like straight up animals that I didn't even know it was legal to hunt. It was getting like that exotic. And I quickly had to shut it off and be like, dude, I'm going to be sick. Like, what the fuck? And the only reason I shut it off, because I was kind of a deer in headlights, ironically, right?
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
Was that I scrolled down to the comments so that the video was halfway visible. And I saw somebody say, I was okay until the woodchuck with its guts hanging out. And I was like, fuck it. I can't watch this. This is like, what? Why is this even?
Yeah.
Right. It was so far away from what appeals to me. In fact, I found it utterly fucking troubling that I was just like.
I'm with you. Like, I try not to judge hunting as well, because you understand the necessity of it to sustain life itself. But at the same time, like, some people are almost like, when you see that type of shit, like that gory stuff, I'm like, what is it about then? Are you feeding yourself? Are you enjoying like decapitating your enemies? Like, I just, I try not to judge.
No, definitely not. It's not,
like,
and from a hobby perspective, I didn't grow up that way. I grew up on Long Island. I mean, this was like, I can't relate for sure. At all. Right. But it's like, I don't know if I was challenging myself or what, but I quickly learned, and I doubled down on, no, this isn't for you type of thing. But the other thing was, like, I didn't understand the entertainment value of just watching the animals suffer. Like, if you're hunting game and you're out on the trail and it's about your guns and it's about the environment and technique and all this kind of thing, I guess I could. And again, I'm completely uneducated when it comes to this, but that was the thing. It was like, even the people that had tuned in were commenting like, this is a bit much. But I just wanted to paint a lesson of, like, it did for me once go wrong. But again, that was me entering into something where I should have known myself. And yeah,
YouTube will surprise you with what they allow on.
I wish
those fight videos, some of them, like, dudes are getting their head put into the pavement, and I'm like, that's brain damage. Like, there's no way you're coming out the same person after that.
Dude, do you know the fight video? It's one of my favorite fight videos of recent years. You must know it. Where these dudes are like fighting, and it's probably in New York or in New Jersey. They're fighting in the street with bats, and there's an ice cream truck. Like, yeah. And so there's like there's like the most violent shit you've ever seen going on the screen, but there's so the ice cream truck music in the background, like really loud.
It starts off with a guy like body slamming someone, right? Like, he kind of like picks him up.
Yeah, and these guys all have bats, like beat the shit out of these people, and then there's just the.
That's the comedy. That's just the comedy, man.
It's hysterical. I love that video so much. There's so many good ones.
There's so many hobbies. Anything could be a hobby. That's the other lesson. Anything could be a hobby. Anything could be an area of interest. And the other thing is, it's intimidating how much talent is out.
Definitely.
These people are very talented.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason, right? Awesome. I do think some of my discipline stems from, like, and Dagan, I'm sure you can especially relate, because I think we've talked about before, like, I will get bad imposter syndrome. Like, I'd like to say I'm good at what I do, but I'll see people doing things out of my wildest dreams. I'm like, man, I just talk about games. And, like, there's a talent in that, but I'm just like, sure, man. And I think it will hurt me at times a little bit more. So I feel like there is, if I'm very transparent about it, there's probably a mild bit of self-protection in some of that, and like staying in my lane, staying in my hobbies, instead of like going beyond and being like, man, I wish I could build something like that. That'd be so cool. I can't though. I can't.
Let me ask, let me go around before we go on to the next topic. We'll have this sort of exit question, because I think about this a lot actually, and I have an answer, but I'm wondering if you could become a YouTuber about a topic, like if you wanted to try, and you could try to make it work, and if you even if you think you could make it work in some ways, whatever that means, maybe you don't make a living off of it, but it becomes successful in some way, what topic would you choose? Dagan?
I think pound for pound, what I would enjoy the most, I'm not thinking of like a monetary benefit or something that I think could be successful. What I would enjoy the most by and by, I think with my best friend PJ, I would talk about skateboarding from our sort of veteran perspective, about the act of skateboarding, what's going on in the world with skating, professional skateboarding, the industry, our experiences growing up, how much it's changed. I would love to do that and just have like a sounding board from an older perspective. I'm my age. PJ's a few years younger than me. We're old men in the game. I think that's what I would enjoy the most because it's so different than what I do right now. And I think my other answer would be to talk about animation from an industry perspective, but I really can't do that honestly and not get blackballed from the industry. I can't call it like I see it with animation and not upset everybody who I need to work for.
Exactly. I know what that's like.
Yes,
so.
you know what? That's a really good point, but you don't. And you found a way to do that, which is actually kind of fascinating. I should talk to you about this.
It's a little different just because I don't work for them, but they would provide me with access.
Yeah,
that's kind of the game that some
easier.
people have to play, which is why letting go of that game is very risky, but it's been so relaxing. Like whatever, man. It's like, and the audience loves it. They love it. We're all worked out.
It's really kind of inspiring when you say it that way. And but it wouldn't be even to talk about animation from an industry perspective or for a young kid trying to break into the business or just from an insider perspective to be negative purposely. I wouldn't want to go in with that pessimistic fuck everybody attitude at all. That's not who I am, but I'd want to be able to be honest and sort of take the good with the bad and show working in animation from all lights. And I couldn't do it. I just don't know if you could do that while also working in the field. You'd just be shooting yourself in the foot. I don't think it's right that it should be that way unless I could get big enough where I could be like you, Colin, just make an independent go of being a sounding board or being a mouthpiece for animation from an industry perspective, not from a fan perspective necessarily, but I would have to rely on that for my total income. And also there's another part of me too, where I'm not ready to leave the trenches of working in animation. I really love it too much, but that would be my other dream. If I could find a way to eventually, I always tell myself, like, when you retire, then you could kind of talk about your experiences. You could write the book. You could write the tell-all sort of warts and all documentary about, what it was like. But I think the reason I want to do the skateboarding thing's a gimme. I would do it tomorrow. The animation thing, I think why it's so compelling for me is I think it would be really refreshing and important to be honest about it so that people could learn more about it that are considering it, or people that are in it already can relate to it again. And with the good, with the bad, not just the negative side, not just the dark side of it, but being able to say, like, look, this is what it's really like. It sounds amazing. You're an animator for a living. You haven't worked a day in your life. Yeah, there's a lot of that, but also there's the dark side of it. There's the downside of it, like there is for anything, and no one does it. And that's why, because we have to work. You know what I mean? Yeah. We don't want to upset anybody, and but that would be it. It's going to happen eventually, and I wish it could be me, but I love doing it too much.
I understand that. Yeah, I honestly, for games media, I didn't love doing it that much. It's being a pundit and critic in some way is much more satisfying than doing whatever this is. And that this ties into the YouTube topic of just giving us the opportunity to do these things for a living. It's super awesome. Dustin, what would you do on YouTube if you could do anything? I'm curious.
I feel like the only thing that I feel confident of talking about is video games. So it's one of those things that I thought about. There's certain times where I'm like, man, I'm letting all this good content go to waste by not doing any podcasts on One Piece. Stuff like that feels, but I wouldn't want to start an anime YouTube channel because I'm not really in the trenches of modern anime, really. Like,
also, it's important not to commoditize your, like, all of your hobbies.
Right. Yeah. And I was, I did some retro gaming YouTube videos late last year and I enjoyed it. But, for me, it was just hard. I wanted to do it a certain way and be able to go certain places, and just tough because this is my bread and butter, doing Last Stand. So it's side projects are tough for me, but I honestly don't really know what I would want to do outside of the same stuff we're already doing right now. Like, I don't feel as passionate. I'm not passionate about movies and the other hobbies that I do have, like whether it's anime or music or something like that. I wouldn't want to make videos about that just because it's some of that is so, particularly like with music or something like that, it's so based in preference. And I don't know, I just kind of enjoy those things for what they are for me. So I guess that's a bit of a non-answer, but I feel like I'm already doing it.
That's a good answer. I like that answer.
What about you, Matty?
It's funny because I think before Retro Rebound, I would have said that would be it, but that is it. Like I like what I do at MrMattyPlays. I like covering the modern gaming news. I think I was talking to Lockmort about it last night, and because I was saying, I've recognized on that channel, I'm like, a lot of commenters there are mean, and I usually don't get too out of sorts about that. Like I've been around the block enough. There are days where definitely like I'm weaker than others, and it will bother me. But most times I'm fine. But I've just noticed I'm like, there's a consistent kind of like jab happening, and I'm just doing my thing, and nothing's really changed. And we were talking about it. And it's not to like, by the way, not lay any blame at my feet. Like it's impossible. I've made a mistake, but I just genuinely haven't like changed any of my approach or anything. And we were talking about how the channel might have kind of transcended beyond me, because we're at past 500,000 subs now. It's like it might have transcended beyond me, and it's now this kind of thing where it has become like, this is where you get informed about game news, what's happening currently in gaming. Here's your latest review. Here's your latest preview. And it's less about me and more about the subject. Like I'm a conduit to the subject, which is what I wanted it to be, by the way. But with that, I didn't anticipate that, people don't care about me and they kind of feel safe saying whatever they feel they can about me. And it was not always like that. And I think it's because I went from being like full out Bethesda guy to like just general game discussion guy. And with that, you net a broader audience and you have less of an identity, and it's less about you and again, the subject matter. Whereas Retro Rebound is kind of exactly where I always wanted to be. Like there's no shackles to it. It's, we talked about in the past 2 weeks, like the Raimi Spider-Man video game, Resident Evil 4, and Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. And just each of those very different types of games, but like the niche is so wide in that it's retro that we just can fit all that in there and find success in all that. And that's all I ever wanted, like this ability to, because my perspective is different, right? Like the creative outlet is there. Like I love gaming. And so just being able to talk about that is a blessing. But then the added bonus here is what I learned through MrMattyPlays is with Mr. Matty, it's very hard in a modern channel to plan content ahead of time. Like I got a text from my editor today. He was just like, hey, got a video for me? I was like, after I finished the podcast, I'm like, I don't know. I'm figuring that out. And like, that's the shitty part about it. Cause like, it just typically news happens, as we all know, day of, and then you got to be on top of it. So it's hard to, as a news channel, like orient, like time off, give yourself time to breathe. And if you're not doing current stuff, then you suffer in views, and in turn your income diminishes. So with Retro Rebound, it's like I have this ability where if I wanted to say, I just want to take 2 weeks off, we upload twice a week. You put 4 videos in the can. I'm very blessed to have Lockmort willing to do all of them, and he'll do them in his time, by the way. It's not like I'm like, get it done now. He'll do them in his time. We'll plan that out, but like it's something we can do. So it's the benefit of having, as a creative, the ability to rejuvenate, take time, to breathe, to think, and let also content marinate, where like, I actually don't like what I have to do on Mr. Matty to keep that channel up and running. I have to pump shit out at least 4 times a week to not only sustain the audience, but to sustain my living. Whereas Retro Rebound, it's really nice to have this evergreen approach where, you can watch one of our videos now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, and so on and so forth, and get the kind of same feeling. Obviously there's time periods in all of them. Like we put the Mario and Luigi video up because of the Mario movie. So there's a little bit of that extra hype you may feel coming in, or you're coming off the movie. So there is that bonus, but the video itself doesn't lose anything. But with Mr. Matty, the video loses everything in like 3 days. So to my broader point, it's like, being able to prepare content in advance is super valuable to me. To have that also be in line with games and games that I grew up with, and the nostalgia factor is special. For our Spider-Man video, I came out and I brought out a demo disc, the game itself, the manual, action figures. Like it was a whole all-encompassing deep dive into like the movie tie-in game and just like what it meant to a New York kid growing up and like how Spider-Man is a hero of mine, like truly, and just what that meant for a little kid, and showing all the like how it was the start of a new era. Like these are the toys, this was the game, this is how prominent it was. It was on the front of the Xbox magazine, and just getting into the more historical side of gaming while still celebrating it. Like I'm, as I think I've shown, like happy to be critical of games, and I think that's necessary, but to have a place to kind of celebrate the good times, to weigh in on these awesome gems of the past, and kind of give myself that excuse to, you know, we all can relate to this, where you have to play the modern games to keep up, right? Where I could go back and play again Mario and Luigi, and it's justifiable to me. It's like I can play that. It is, I put in quotes, work related. So it's like I do have a reason to squeeze that in, where it's instead just I want to do this, right? So in all ways, Retro Rebound just benefits my way of life, and without it, I think I would have lost my mind on Mr. Matty, with at times like the way the audience is and the topics being very limited and structured. I love it, but I love it more now because I can breathe over on Retro Rebound and kind of do my thing. Like, and one day I hope Retro Rebound does become that like main channel for sure. But I think like to keep Retro Rebound interesting, you almost need this complete offset, which is like very modern coverage, very different approach. So long-winded answer, but like truly Retro Rebound is what I always wanted to do. And I'm thrilled that it's actually growing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. As far as like, I don't consider myself a YouTuber, so we put our podcast on YouTube, so I don't consider myself successful on YouTube or a YouTuber naturally or anything. So I getting into a more like YouTube style content, I think would be really interesting in terms of and I think about it not turning hobbies into jobs or whatever, but I think I could do G.I. Joe YouTubing pretty well. I think I would be really interested in doing that. And I have this vision of just doing a full review of like each figure from that run and each vehicle, like one video, one thing at a time. And I think that would be a really neat thing to explore at some time, because there are some really good guys that do it, and it's not a very big thing. You're not going to become very big doing it, but I look at it and I think I could do this better than this. And I get really frustrated specifically with just these very high resolution pictures people take of toys, and they're like dirty and dusty, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, it sucks. There's one guy that's really good on YouTube that I love that does G.I. Joe reviews. He hasn't done them in a couple of years though, called Form BX. He's like this dude in Canada that's really great. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic because we're running long here. And I'll go to my topic, and it'll be a quick one. I wanted to talk about dogs, but specifically, that's such a huge topic in and of itself. And so what I want to do is specifically talk about dogs from a perspective of like where they fit into your life, or what role they play in your life, if any. And I think they play a role in all of our lives. And so that's basically it. That's the simple topic I wanted to bring to the table, and we can take it however we like. Dustin, what do you think about this? What role do dogs play in your life?
So I wasn't always a dog lover. Growing up, we didn't get a dog until I was in 4th grade. And it's funny because before that, I kind of considered myself kind of afraid of dogs. My aunt and uncle had these big huskies that would jump on me. And I was kind of naturally and rightfully kind of afraid of dogs until I had my own. And that kind of changed everything. And so after that, in 4th grade, we always had dogs in our house. And it's great. When I got married, my wife Holly is also the same way, absolutely loves dogs. And so when we first got married, it sucked because we were in an apartment where we could not have pets at all. And so we always talked about wanting a dog and how impactful that would be. And then so when we moved into this house, like I mentioned earlier, it was pretty shortly after. I think it was, we moved in the winter, and then by that spring we had gotten Frisk. And it's totally different when it's totally your dog, because my dogs before this were family dogs, but almost more my mom's dog, my parents' dogs, than my dog. Just because the first dog was my dog, but I was too young to really like take care of it. And then after that, it was kind of like my mom really wanted to have these dogs, which they were still Neko and Elora. I know that Colin, you've met them before, and Matty maybe has too. But so having Frisk, it's funny just in that I always want to have a balance where I don't want to be the dog obsessed type that is I don't know. I think there gets to a point where people treat their dogs like they're kids, and I think that can get a little weird. I mean, to each their own, of course. If that's how you want to roll, that's fine. But Frisk has been such a blessing in Holly and I's life that I knew that obviously when we got a dog that would be special, but it has been we love her so much that it makes me paranoid about the day that she won't be there anymore. Not to, of course, this is a Last Stand show. It's immediately going to get depressing and morbid, but legit, I think about that. I'm like, man, she's just so great. And when you sign up for a dog, it was either a comedian or someone said this. I can't remember. I didn't think of this.
Yeah, it was George Colin. Dustin.
Yeah. When you get a dog, you're signing up for one of the worst days of your life. About 10 to 15 years, maybe a little longer than that if you got a smaller dog. But it's worth it. It truly is just this creature in your house that really does, I mean, not always, but at least for me, loves you unconditionally and is happy to see you, and how you can be so surprised by their personalities and the things they like and the things they don't like. Frisk is just purely a through and through a cuddler. She wants, particularly in the morning when she's tired, she wants to be on your lap. I had her on my lap. She's back here right now. I brought her for show and tell for this episode, but she had enough of being on my lap for the last hour and a half. But at the same time too, she's the most stubborn dog I've ever met. And apparently that's a dachshund trait where she just simply, when she's out in the yard, she's in her zone and she does not care. We have to say. She's never listened to me. We've tried training her. She just does not really listen. But luckily she's so small that it's very manageable overall. But yeah, it's the thing now where for me and Holly, I can't ever see us not having a dog because that's how much they enrich our lives. And it's one of those things too where I know there are cat lovers and dog lovers and people, have their different opinions on that, but I just can't. If you're a cat lover, that's fine. But people that actively dislike dogs, I cannot. I'm not down with that. I just can't get it. And I understand people have had different experiences with dogs that haven't been so nice, and I can understand that, but I don't know, man. And of course, there's people that are allergic too, and it was really nice, Colin, for you, seeing you kind of transform into this dog lover. And it's, again, it sounds like I'm trying to shit on cat lovers because I don't get cats. I don't hate them. I think they're cute. I am allergic to them as well. So that's kind of a deterrent for me, but it's nice to see people get dogs and have their lives, become part of their family in some way. So yeah, I'm obsessed with dogs through and through.
Yeah. I will say I grew up a cat person. Dagan did too. And I like cats. I think that they're super cool. It's just, it's not remotely the same having a cat and having the dog. You don't remotely have the same relationship. And I am surprised by how many people in my past let me just fly off the handle on that topic, talking in the other direction like it was even remotely true when it really wasn't. And I just didn't know any better.
You don't know, yeah.
Because cats are great, but I've never owned a cat where, and I've had several cats for their entire lives, and I've loved and adored them, but I've never had a cat where I feel like we're really on the level. You don't really have a relationship with your cat. The cat kind of does whatever it wants, and when it wants attention or food and all that kind of stuff. And it's not to say dogs don't do that, but it's just different. Dogs are working at a different level with humans, and the way they interact and they are just a different kind of creature. So I think that's important. But Matty, I'll go over to you because you were in the bathroom when I introduced this. I want to specifically talk about dogs from the the perspective of just what role they might play in your life. Like, we don't have to talk about them very deeply right now because I think it's such a huge topic. It could be its own show. But I'm just curious what role, if any, a dog would play in your everyday life, and what I know it's changed over time and all that. So yeah, talk to me about it.
Yeah, dude. I'm going to echo a decent amount of what Dustin said. I love dogs so much. I can't imagine my life without them. And I will get a little aggressive and be like, I can't fucking fathom why someone would hate a dog. It's like, you had a bad experience, but dogs are typically amazing. I can't remotely imagine being like, yeah, those things suck. Like, what? They are truly the best enhancement to your life. There is the truth that, yeah, you do sign up for that one shitty stretch of time where they're gone. But when you think about everything they give you, like, they give 110% every day. And it's incredible. Like, because like I always say Revan is sentient. He's a 4-year-old rat terrier. And
I was going to say, you have rat terrier too, right? Because Frisk is half rat terrier.
Oh, really? So, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah. So I've had rat terriers my whole life. We had Duke for 16, 17 years. And amazing dog. Very stubborn, though. Very much a mama's boy. And I had a good relationship with Duke, and I would always give him all my love. But I don't think it was always given back. So Revan is the first dog I've personally had that has really, I felt, returned the favor almost. But like I said, this dog is what I would define as sentient. Like, when someone is off, he spends time with them, and like, you don't have to cry or anything. Although if my mom ever starts crying, the dog literally runs after her. It's fucking insane. But like, when I came home and I was like clearly stressed about the house, everything I had to do, I vented a little bit. Revan stayed in my room overnight. Like, he just plopped it in there, just hung out with me. And he doesn't always do that. Like, he'll do it on some nights, but like, when someone's off, he spends time with them. And it's amazing to see, because dogs just have that finger on the pulse, and they can feel those types of things, those emotions. They can see them, and they know when they're needed. And I think they're always needed, but like, he knows right then and there. I definitely needed like just a dog to hold and love and just kind of get that positivity in. And to me, that's incredible. And they add so much because they are so different. Like, Laylee has a 9-year-old or 10-year-old this month, teacup poodle. And this dog is probably 5 pounds, and it knows its weight. It knows its size. It throws itself around because it's like, I can, like, it'll, like, you'll be laying down. He'll just stand on your chest and look at you in the face. Like, oh, like, I'm 5 pounds. Like, you're fine. And his reaction to things, like, they're all so different in what they need, but they're just so funny in how they react to things. And the way I think about it is like, yeah, there is that sadness that, one day they'll go, but there's not a day that goes by that Revan doesn't make me laugh. And I think that's extremely valuable. Like, we all need to laugh. We all need to smile. We all need to cherish those things. And the fact that there's a creature that can do that daily just by living is insane to me. So yeah, dogs are everything to me. I can't imagine a life without it. I will always have a dog in my life. Laylee and I are planning on getting a corgi together, and Dustin, we're going to name it Luffy.
So cute.
I'm very excited about that.
Dude, great name.
Right?
That's
right?
fantastic.
It's a great corgi name. And so we're excited about that. But yeah, just we're animal lovers through and through. It was some people may know, like, I did go vegan for a stretch of time. That wasn't why I went vegan. It was more like health oriented. And that's why you see me slowly kind of inch my way back across the line now. And I'm like pescatarian now. So, it's one of those things where just animals are so precious and special, and they just add so much to life itself that especially dogs, man, just love them, can't get enough of them.
Matty, I will say just a quick comment. I looked this up the other day, and this is vague because I'm just looking from Insider, but it is apparently there are studies that dogs know when you are sad, and they want you. It's not in your head. I mean, I've seen it firsthand with all the dogs that I've had, that they are they're clued in, and they want to make you feel better. They will specifically pick up on, I mean, not even just when you're crying, but if you are like sad and down, they they're perceptive. They know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's why, instead of the people who don't love dogs, I let them go. It's okay. I'll judge you silently, but it's animal abusers, man, that I'm like, go to fucking hell immediately. That is fucking insane to me, man. Because like these dogs will still love you even after that shit.
Yeah,
and,
I know, it's crazy.
You got the balls to. Unbelievable, man. Like animal rescue videos will always make me cry. I've been a donor to the SPCA for years now. Like I can't even imagine. Like that's the part of me that pisses me the hell off. But probably a whole separate topic. Dogs,
no, indeed,
fantastic.
No, I totally agree with you. It's like completely psychotic, and just these creatures that don't know any better, can't defend themselves for the most part, will still be loyal, and all of that's just totally manipulative and abusive. And to the point that you were bringing up, Dustin, about them knowing, I think Micah had told me that there's studies suggesting that dogs can even like read your face and your eye, like your eyes, and that dogs have evolved over time to have more readable faces because evolution has learned that humans can glean information like that off of you, as opposed to the dogs kind of understanding each other through pheromones and smells and stuff like that. So pretty interesting, I think. But Dag, where are you on this topic? Like, what role do dogs play in your life?
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, these furry little family members, I mean, I have to go back. We have to get ready to throw mom and dad under the bus here.
It's our tradition.
If it's dogs start with me because we weren't allowed to have one growing up, bar none. It was out.
It was not even a possibility. So I never even thought about it.
There were certain milestone periods along the way where there were glimmers of hope. It turned out to be false hope, or at least it read that way. But our parents were just, for me, and Colin will say the same thing. Our sisters will tell you the same. It really always seemingly came down to they were way too persnickety and uptight about the house. But the more I think about it now in retrospect, a lot of the equation was probably because mom just saw the danger signs of, I'm going to have to take care of this thing by myself, because our dad worked. He was a workaholic. All he did was work. He worked his primary job as a firefighter, and then he did his moonlighting gigs. And the man just wasn't home for 3 or 4 days at a time. And I think she probably saw the writing on the wall of the kids are going to be excited about this for a week, regardless of what era we were in at that time. And then I'm going to be stuck taking care of the 3 and eventually 4 kids and the dog. So that was kind of a no-brainer to just put the kibosh on that. And there was a brief period, I think, before Colin was born. Let's say I was the oldest, obviously. I was 7 or 8, maybe 9. They went through this brief, seemingly random flirtation of getting a Springer Spaniel. I don't know why the Springer Spaniel. I still don't understand what that was, but there was talk about getting this dog for a while and then just quickly kind of poo-pooed to the side. And you know what the odd thing is, though? When you wrote the topic via email, I realized something I don't think I've really thought about. There were no dogs on our block. My 3 best friends lived on the block too, never had dogs. My best friend in the world, John, his family, who was the only family I knew even more anal about their house than our parents were. Like, his mom would clean the entire house every day, every single day. Shoes off. Like, it was like, that was like the temple, right? They finally gave in and got John a dog when he was, maybe we were 13 or 14. And that I thought was the great white hope. Now I can make a case to my parents of like, look, Kathy and Johnny got the dog. See, it's okay. We could still take care of the house. When they still refused to get us a dog after John got his, I knew it was just a non-issue. There was no hope for it after that. So when I became an adult, I always used that as ammunition. And I always knew I would go in full tilt on getting a dog when I had my own home. And we did. And luckily, Helene grew up a dog owner. She loved dogs too. So that wasn't an issue. So we got our first dog when we bought our first house in 2004. And unfortunately, it was a shitty situation because we got a beautiful German Shepherd puppy from a breeder who Helene very diligently researched. Helene's a very diligent researcher when it comes to anything, everything. If she's going to buy a car, if she's going to plan a vacation, if we're going to get a dog, she does the work. And
That's
she gets her
my
hands
big
dirty.
weakness, man. Like I feel like sometimes I just go into stuff just like, let's see how it goes.
That's me.
I don't know
Matty.
what it is with me. Like
there
I
only
am
has
a
to be
researcher,
one
but-
though. If your gal is in for doing that kind of, the legwork and doesn't mind doing the research, it's like being handy. Like I used to get emasculated by that because Helene was more gung ho about I'll do it, but or I used to pretend to be emasculated. I really never was emasculated by it. But, as long as there's one, that's the balance. That's the give and take of a relationship,
Right.
kind of sharing the load, shouldering the load together and stuff like that. So she did the research. We drove out to Pittsburgh to get this thing. And the dog was beautiful. Her name was Mazzy. She was super cute German Shepherd puppy. But unfortunately, we very quickly found out that she had hip dysplasia, which is common in German Shepherds, and you got to be careful about it. And ended up having to give the dog back to the breeder, which I remember to this day was a really grueling thing. It was going to be a huge economic burden to keep Mazzy because of her ailment, but it was really more so because I was working in New York at the time and doing the commute, and Helene works full time. So we weren't going to be able to give this dog the care it needed and the sort of 24 hours a day. Eventually it wouldn't be able to walk. It would be one of those dogs with wheels and stuff like that. So we didn't want that to be our first dog owning experience. So there was a lot of deliberating, but we ended up having to give the dog back. And I think because we were so gun shy after that experience, we didn't get our first dog until, after the kids. We got Kiki, our little Havanese, 5 years ago. And she's so cute. And you know what the thing is, guys? Like I think about this sometimes because dogs are a little bit of work, right? We're busy. I have Kiki, she's a little 18-pound Havanese, adorable, perfect dog. She's wonderful. I'm super sold on the breed. Again, that's Helene doing her research about what would be a good family dog. And apparently a Havanese is like the 5th or 6th most popular dog in the country. I never see any Havanese, but they also take on different looks. They could be very moppy, or they could look like a walking mop, or they could be kind of trimmed up into a puppy cut. So it's deceiving. But here's the thing, like I'll have Kiki, take her for a walk in the morning. I have to put her in the mud sink to wash her feet. I inherited a little bit of that anal retentiveness with the house. And, there'll be those times where I'm like, oh God, this is so grueling. And then that little blip of like, this is a lot of work. But then you realize like these little guys bring such a quality of life and they impart such a joy to your life. They're fun. They're funny, they're silly, they're cute, of course, they're joyful, and they just bring a whole dynamic to the household that I can't even imagine not having. Like, I don't remember a time without Kiki, and I was in my early to mid 40s when I really had my first dog experience, and I can't remember life without having that. The loyalty is one thing. I know the humans are the superior race, but dogs have something. It's not just that sixth sense. It's not that the sort of comic nature of them or the self-awareness, but that deeply ingrained loyalty. Like they're just down for you for life from the beginning, no matter what. No questions asked, no holds barred. It's unconditional love. And it's amazing because I don't think people have that. I think there's something with dogs that, many dogs, I think, maybe it's the inherent nature of dogs. There's no dark side to them. They're just kind of inherently good. And that's utterly fascinating to me. It's so interesting to watch just Kiki, and their joyfulness. They don't need much. When you talk about animal abuse and God forbid abusing any animal, but certainly a dog, it's like, they're so happy. They're so authentically happy with the bare minimum, with so little, that it's such an endearing quality. And I realize as a parent, we have children, right? Even our kids, eventually there's that dynamic between parents and kids. Eventually we're going to have the empty nest. hopefully we'll always be very close. I'm sure my family will always be very close, but there's going to be a part in every parent's life where you realize the kids need you less, right? They're set free. There's going to be a relationship shift somewhere along the line where they don't need you the same anymore. But that's not the same with a dog. From day one, that dog is going to need you just like they always needed you. And I think there's something that we probably don't even think about day to day, dog owners, but there's something very comforting in that relationship is going to be 100% consistent through its entire lifespan. And so, and it benefits the dog and it benefits the dog owner. And I think you're right, Kyle, like you can never relate that, what it means to own a dog and the fact of how that dog becomes such an integral part of the family unless you go through it. You know, it's just like you can't, when you hear people poo-poo dogs or like, oh, you're treating that thing like a kid or, you know, God forbid you're putting a sweater on it when it's cold or something. It's like, no, you don't
like dressing up your dog, Dave?
It's like, I care about this thing like it is a child, you know, or I wouldn't pay this exorbitant sum for pet insurance. That's another topic. You know, it's like,
I didn't even know that existed.
I have it.
It's insanity. Yeah. It's actual. You have to know you're a little bit. It's definitely a tell how much you love your dog when you're paying this amount for pet insurance. It's like, I think my kids cost less than this. This is not normal. But it's like, God forbid the dog gets sick and I don't have this, you know, that type of thing. But and the inevitable comparison to cat owners, right? Cats are just different. And I love cats. I've always owned cats. And that's one thing. I was always able to have the comfort of at least having a cat when I couldn't have a dog. But there is something with every cat along the way, including our current cat, who's hilarious. But I always feel like if this cat could figure out how to change its litter and feed itself, I don't think it would miss me. You know, I'm not saying it would take me out or, you know, I'm not sure it's rooting for my death or my absence, but I'm pretty sure life would go on. You know, the grieving period would be maybe none or very little for the cat, but the dog, it's just so tied to you. You know, yeah. I think like with Kiki, she's 5 now, and she always got really excited. Like you could be gone for an hour and a half, and you guys know how effusive they are. Like you walk in the door, and they act like you were gone for 3 weeks. And I thought that was going to go away. And she still acts like that. Like you are just the center of their entire universe. And I actually think that's comical, but it's also so sweet that who could resist it? I know dog people, there's not the one person I think I should have brought this up on our Fears episode, but my best friend's sister, it's not that she didn't like dogs. His little sister, she was afraid of dogs. Like you would think a dragon walked in the room. Like she just had some mental block where she was just really afraid of any dog. And our sister, our older sister, Dana, doesn't like dogs. And I remember why, because she was bit by the only dog on the block when we were very little. There was a little Shih Tzu named Puff that lived in my neighbor's garage. They really mistreated this dog. The dog was chained up. I'm not saying the dog was roped up. The dog weighed 10 pounds if it was an ounce. It was chained up in the garage with the garage door just open enough for air. It was in there all day. You know, like it wasn't a remodeled garage. It was like full on grease stains on the concrete, shitty garage. This dog was in there all day. It obviously was kind of maltempered because it was mistreated. And my sister decided to crawl in there. She was probably 2. The garage was open just enough. She was going to go pet Puff, but Puff was kind of vicious and bit her hand. And I think from that day on, Dana was just like not down for dogs. So she had a shitty experience from day one. In fact, I don't remember her pining for a dog like me and our other sister did. She was probably more like, I guess this will be fun for a little while, but she was probably more neutral on it. But yeah, I always wanted one. So it's nice to finally have that experience. But I'll tell you one thing. And again, I have Helene, who's kind of wears the decision-making pants as far as research and lords that over me, and she has every right to, because I really don't do anything. But I am going to do this thing. And again, maybe this is the animator in me, but I have this fantasy about I always wanted 2 dogs, which Colin could speak to. He's a big believer in having multiple dogs, but I always wanted to have a really huge dog, like let's say a Mastiff or a Saint Bernard, and like a tiny sort of pocketbook or teacup dog, because I just think that would be hilarious to have like a 200-pound dog and a 5-pound dog. And I'm doing it. I don't care what Helene says. If I have to get these dogs and she just comes home to them one day, I'm going to wait till both kids are in college at least. But I'm calling it right now. I'm getting these, and hopefully Kiki will still be around for this, but I'm going to do this thing. I have to do the big dog. I'm thinking the Saint Bernard would be cute with the barrel, full on with the barrel and everything.
Yes.
And the little tiny, like what your fiance has, right, Matty? Your
little 5-pound
teacup poodle. That sounds about right. I just love. There's something. Why does nobody do anything fun like that? And it's simply for the fact
you give the little dog a big bed, right? It's going to sleep on the big dog.
They'll be best friends. They would have to be best friends, right?
Well, yeah, that's why we wanted 2 dogs, was just because it's free, for when we had just Rush. It's like he seemed bored and like kind of disenchanted in some way because we couldn't always pay attention to him.
Yeah, the companionship.
So they're given that kind of circular companionship. I think
makes sense. Sure.
Here's my thing with where dogs fit into my life is, and Dagan already touched on a lot of this, is I was young enough to have been born into a situation where that was just a non-starter. I never wanted one. And it was not even like I don't know. I just must have been infused with that from a very young age. It's not in your universe of possibilities. It's not even possible. So just disabuse yourself of ever even thinking that. But my best friend had 3 dogs growing up. And so I was exposed to them and I liked them. Pee-wee, Chowder, Muffin, I think were their 3 names.
These names, man.
and they were all really good dogs. And I would bring them on walks with them and stuff. But I never really wanted one. And I got to be honest with you, with rare exception, like my friend Cody, who Dagan knows well, had like a black lab named Shadow, and she was so cute and so adorable, and she was just non-intrusive and didn't bother you, and she just wanted to sit with you and hang out. But I knew people, including, by the way, my own dogs, because they're Boston Terriers, they're insane, where you come over, you're gonna have to kind of deal with them, and I remember being in situations where I'm like, this is just annoying. Dogs are an annoyance. Can be an annoyance. I never had an issue with them. And I even lived with one in college. Like I said, I lived with a pit bull named Mimi. And then living in San Francisco all those years with Greg, I lived with Portillo, his wiener dog. And I liked Portillo, but I would take care of him sometimes and take him on walks and all this. But you respect that it's an animal. But again, I'm like, I don't want a dog. I'm not interested in it. I think for me, I know it was Lola, my ex's Boston Terrier, that got me in love with dogs, but I think it was the breed. Like for the first time I interacted with a breed where I was like, oh my God, these guys fucking are awesome. But it's I think all dogs are awesome. I like having conversations with every dog I see on the street and baby talking the dog and staring.
Yeah. The Southern draw.
Lovingly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But to me, Boston Terriers are an amazing breed that I'm surprised isn't actually more popular. They're both like mega athletic and fast, but also very cute and lapdoggish and don't really understand their role. Like Rush is 35 pounds. He's actually a little overweight now. We have to bring his weight down a little bit. And he still acts the same exact way he did when he was 7 weeks old and I got him. And I used to put him on my chest and play video games, like laying in bed or laying on the couch or whatever. And he still lays on my chest when I play video games to this day. And he's huge. He still comes up and like puts his head like right here and we'll just hang out that way and then like sit on my lap, or he's just always with me. He's always attached to me. And that's the role I think of the dog in my life. And I think the role of a lot of people's dogs is I'm home all day. We're with them all the time. So if anything, they are too demanding of our time. And that might be the like single annoyance, is that you wish you could talk to them and be like, dude, a lot of dogs are in fucking crates half the day. And all of these things, like you have the run of the house. You
rationalize it with the dog.
Right, exactly. It's like you sleep in bed with us,
and you
get your square
you
meals.
Don't know how
good
you have it.
Exactly.
You live in the lap of luxury. That's what I tell Frisk.
And no, exactly. It's like you have it so good, and we can't obviously communicate that to you. And so I think it's sweet that the one problem I might have of like their just constant need for attention is actually really endearing. That they want to play, and I love that they, as all dogs that I've known have their own personalities. Rush is just really lazy, and he's just so cute. And he's just hanging out, does not listen, just like we were talking about earlier with Frisk. And I let him take me on walks. Basically, I let him just walk wherever he wants. And we live in a neighborhood where there's nothing really happening, so he's not going to get hurt or anything like that. And he's on a leash. But that doesn't reinforce the listening aspect of it. And Treble, our younger Boston, is really small. She's actually really small even for the breed. So she is similar to the dogs you guys were talking about, where she is nuts. Absolutely, she's nuts. And in all the best ways possible. But I always say she'll do anything for the ball. I bring up a ball and put it in her face, and I'm like, "Is this what you see?" And like her eyes are just like peeled on it. And you can like you can keep it there for 10 seconds, like she won't look it away. And then she's just
watching their head follow it. It's so funny.
So we like making fun of them and and teasing them too. And we were reading a chart where Boston Terriers are ranked 100th out of 130 in intelligence, for instance. So we always talk about how dumb they are. Yeah. and they are. They're not the smartest dogs, but they're of average dog intelligence, apparently.
That makes it even more charming, I think.
That I always tell Rush he doesn't have many folds in his brain, when he's doing things.
Smooth brain dog.
I always tell Frisk when she's begging for food or something, like, you are obese. Like, talk about how fat. And she's maybe a few pounds over, well, not a few pounds for her size, but she's a little overweight right now from the winter where she haven't been able to go on walks. But always talk about, I'm like, hey, fatty. I'll just straight up call her fatty, call her obese. That's what you got to do. Or, the other thing
with the punches.
Colin, you're talking about how dumb. Holly and I will be like, well, she's not the smartest dog, but, and then just she's we love her. But she's not very smart. She's an idiot.
I love
we insult them all the time. They have no idea because it's the inflection of your voice. We're doing it in like the cutesy voice or in like a positive voice. And so they have no idea what you're saying.
Or do they? But do they? I don't know. I don't know with dogs. Have you guys, this is one thing that dawned on me. I think about this a lot, actually, because there was definitely some guilt with getting a dog from a breeder and all that kind of stuff. But have you guys ever owned a rescue? Any of you guys?
No,
I got mine.
We're considering it though.
I just can't imagine the level of dedication. You hear things, you hear stories, and you see things about owners and dogs in that situation. The level of dedication, right? That because dogs are smart enough. Again, that instinctual, and wanting to reciprocate in their own way and wanting to please you and kind of live again. You just being the center of their entire universe. I can't even imagine how that dynamic must just be even raised up to the nth degree by rescuing a dog from a situation that was like, and giving it that shift of like, it was mistreated or just living in poverty or, God forbid, in a cold shelter. And now it has this life. I can't even imagine what that must be like. Could dogs get even more loyal than what we know? It's amazing to think about. I don't know. The rescue thing is hard because you kind of gotta, if you have a picture in mind of what you want, size wise, breed wise, all that kind of thing. I think rescuing a dog is probably one of the coolest things you could do, right? Because it's kind of just saying, all right, like, I'm down for whatever this is going to be like. And you really don't know what you're getting, right? You don't know how emotionally damaged this thing. Maybe it's physically harmed in some way. You're taking on a huge burden with a rescue, but I think it's a really cool, selfless thing to do. And I definitely I harbor some guilt by having not done that with Kiki. And, again, my fantasy of the next two dogs and stuff, it's like,
it's the problem we're in right now is we're looking at a corgi, right? We're like, we want a corgi. You can't really rescue or adopt one because they're bred.
Yes.
But it's like something it's a dog I've always wanted. I think they're just the cutest things. But,
I hear you.
I don't discriminate. Like, I will love any dog. So it's not like I need one. It's just like, man, like now we're really kind of in that tug of war where what Laylee is saying is she's like, okay, this is the last dog we buy though. She's like, rescue from it moving forward. I'm like, I can work with that.
That's cool.
I'm curious, Dagan, because as a parent, what you think about this, I wouldn't know, but it's something I kind of joke about, but I also somewhat mean, is I say when you buy a dog, like right now, Laylee and I, we don't want to have kids. Who knows if that changes down the line, but like right now we don't. And I always say like, I'd rather be an animal parent because I feel like having a dog is like at least some training if you buy them in like their puppy stage, like a couple weeks old, it's almost like training wheels to being a parent. And I'm wondering if you could co-sign that argument. Not that I've butted heads with anyone on it, but I do kind of speak from a point of ignorance on it, just assuming this is at least somewhat similar because like when I got Revan, I love this dog so much, but like, yeah, those early weeks and months, years, it's just like a little independence, just a smidge, please. But like, he's got to go or he's crapping and pissing on the floor. You're like, no, not here, man. Or he rips up my copy of Smash Bros. Brawl. I'm like, I just bought this from eBay and now I got to buy another one. That type of stuff would happen. And it's like how you almost learn to love them more too, because like you're figuring out all their weird idiosyncrasies and whatnot. But I'm just curious if that's something you've ever thought of as a parent. Or
I mean, getting
totally separate worlds.
No, it's not. I mean, it's really kind of similar. Getting a puppy from an early age, or let's say the lowest acceptable age. What do you get them? 3 months, 4 months old when they can finally leave their moms, 2,
3 months.
That's a lot of work. I think it's very similar with the potty training, with the sleeping at night, with the sleepless nights, with the eating, with the getting to know you. And I think with the dog, it's just on a gratefully sped up timeline compared to having a kid. With a kid,
for sure,
the potty training takes a few years, 2 or 3 years sometimes. They have to learn to walk. That takes 10 months to a year. Then they're running and the feeding, the sleepless nights hopefully end in a few months. But with a dog, it's all those things. With a dog, it just goes quicker, which makes sense when you think of a dog's life compared to a human's life. But it's a very similar thing. The only way out of that is getting a dog that's already an adult, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going through it,
you got to get the puppy.
You got to get the pup. I agree. Yeah.
Because that's why I feel bad for some dogs in like shelters and stuff, because people will always adopt young, right? And I get why. You want to have the most time with the dog, but there are dogs that'll be like 5, 6 just sitting there. It's like, don't they deserve a life too? It's,
sure.
You mentioned the guilt, Dagan. It's like, it's something I struggle with. I'm like,
think about that a lot.
Should I buy this puppy? It's like, I could give this dog who thinks this is it, like a way better, even if it's short, like just a way better life. But Laylee and I have talked about that too. And it's just like one of those things where I have to be ready to lose something I love so soon. Like at least with, a dog, when you buy them in the puppy stage, you're like, at least with rat terriers, I'm like, I got at least 15 years with you, pal, before it's time to say goodbye.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
With these older dogs, like I feel so bad because I'm seeing these shelters like euthanizing them because no one's adopting them. I'm just like, that's fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
That's tough.
It's horrible. And I wish the reality is like it butts up with. I got both of the Bostons from a very renowned Boston Terrier breeder in North Carolina, and they were expensive, but they come highly recommended with their papers and all of that. It's cheapest to get them insured. Dagan was talking about pet insurance. I think our pet insurance has been fucking awesome. I mean, like it's been totally worth its weight in gold for us with both Rush and Treble because we got them so early. I think the in Virginia, the quickest you can legally get a dog from a breeder is at 7 weeks, 3 days or something. So we got them at those same dates, and you get to know them and imprint with them when they are so young, and they really do get to know you. And it's funny, especially with Rush, although Treble knows too, but Rush is like obsessed with our mom, because I lived with my mom when I first got him. And so she took care of him all the time for me in his earliest days. And that totally imprinted. Like he knows her name, like the word grandma. We don't say it around him because he freaks the fuck out.
You have to mumble it.
and so it's so cute to watch that. Like and actually when we went to Houston for the live show, it was funny. We were actually really looking forward to the dogs are going to be so excited when they get home and can't wait to see them. And they were kind of like nonplussed when we got home. I think because it was like an exotic experience for them. They're like, dude, we're with their grandma. We don't give a fuck. Like they were happy to see us, but it wasn't like this. They didn't go wild and crazy when we got home. I think they were disappointed.
That is a always telling experience when you come in. The dog's not going as crazy as you were hoping for. You're like,
Yeah, it's a little disappointing, but I understood like they were disappointed that my mom and my stepdad were leaving, who they're like, who they really love. And so I was like, oh yeah, I understand your point of view, my friends, but they're amazing. And dogs will, I think, I'm glad that I learned sooner rather than later the secret. I was, again, never, you're right. Like the anti-dog shit, that's like very off-putting. It's very weird. We're so culturally embedded with them for many thousands of years, clearly and obviously. And it's funny, they serve, what I love the most is that they serve no purpose. So wolves in our relationship with dogs served a huge purpose for for thousands of years until really recently in human history. And we've just kept them around. And I think that says a lot. Same thing with cats. They don't serve a purpose anymore either. You wanted a cat on your ship. You wanted a cat in your factory, all that kind of stuff, to chase mice and to do all these kinds of things, but you just kind of keep them around because you like them. And I think that that's a sign of that unbreakable camaraderie. But I am a Boston Terrier fan forever. And it all draws back to Lola. I mean, the dog Lola, I was in love with her. I was just head over heels for Lola. And I feel even more strongly about my dogs I have now, and I didn't even think that was going to be possible. And so I just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys on that quick, easy topic. Dave, let's end with you and your topic.
My bucket list topic, guys. We're going to talk about bucket lists today.
2 tiers in a bucket list?
2 tiers in a bucket.
Yeah.
Mother.
Bucket. Yeah. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Everybody, we work so hard. Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? What are we working for? What's the payoff? What are we looking to earn? But also, like, life is short. What do we want to do before we leave this world? No matter what you believe, you're going to heaven. You're going to be reincarnated, oblivion, Kyle, whatever you go in for, right? What are we going to do? What's our bucket list? And I think about, I'm always reassessing this. It seems to get more intense as I get older, but it's ever evolving. I reserve the right to add, subtract, modify as I see fit. Some of them are the same for many years. Sometimes I think of something new and I'm like, I'd really like to do that. And, a lot of this, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of people, I'm sure this applies to you guys in some way, is places I want to see and places I want to go, right? Like, I haven't been to Japan yet. I don't know how that's been a thing. I'm almost 50, but I want to go eat sushi in Japan. I want to go to a tropical paradise. I've been to the Caribbean a couple of times. I love St. John and St. Thomas. It's beautiful down there, but I want to go to like Fiji. I want to see paradise on earth. I want to see a tropical paradise. I want to go all over Europe. I mean, there's Spain, Italy, England, Ireland. I want to go to Copenhagen. I talk about Copenhagen all the time. I want to see the world. I want to see everything. I want to see a vast snowy landscape. I'm not talking about necessarily the Arctic, but just bring me to Alaska. Let me see what that looks like. I just want to see everything, so that's a big part of it for me. And then I have kind of a laundry list before I pass it over to you guys about stuff that I definitely want to do. One of them, probably from my early 20s, has been skydiving. I really, and it's weird, guys. I have to talk to you about this. It's a hang up almost. I feel more like I have to go skydiving than I necessarily want to go skydiving. It kind of horrifies me. It horrified me before I saw the skydiving survivor on Soft White Underbelly. Don't know if you guys saw that episode.
No, I didn't see that one.
It's pretty intense. This kid was like an avid skydiver for years, had hundreds of hops before this happened. And he got, he survived skydiving, which is rare, obviously. And, he lived to tell the tale. So it's terrifying. But and I guess if I'm being fair, I do have some sort of adrenaline junkie, risk-taking aspect to my personality being a skateboarder. I wasn't a huge handrail, set of stair, stunt skateboarder. I certainly did my share of those things when I was younger, but I guess just skateboarding, just by judging the amount of people who won't step on a skateboard, who are absolutely horrified by a skateboard, I guess I do have that aspect of my personality where part of the joy of skateboarding was the thrill of, the whole thing about flirting with danger and getting hurt and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that goes in for my idea of skydiving, but I also feel like there's something really weird about, I don't know if it's weird, but like I talk about this with Helene and she's like, that's crazy. I can't speak to that. Where it's like, how can you really enjoy life unless you bring yourself as close to death as humanly possible? And I'm not saying it in a way of like, I want to die or it's a suicidal thing in any way. It's like, how can you really appreciate living unless you a little bit flirt with the dangers of dying? It's hard to articulate, but I've always felt that way and it's never gone away. And I think a large part of this is when I was in my early 20s, one of my best friends worked for an advertising agency. And for Christmas, the gift for the employees was they took everybody skydiving, or they took all the figureheads, the art directors, creative directors, or whatever. And he did it. And I had an opportunity to go. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And I think I've regretted it ever since, because it went fine. They all lived to tell the tale and they all had this amazing story and this amazing experience. And they got it over with, because I'm not sure I would ever do it more than once. But what unique thing could you put yourself through more than seeing the earth from that high up and then jumping out of an airplane? That's like,
I'd probably die before I hit the ground, man.
I think that too, Matty. Like, would I just have the straight up heart attack?
I truly believe that would be, if I wanted to die, that's how I would do it.
My lifeless body. Right. And then my other thing, the newer thing, I've always been a car guy and motorcycles never spoke to me until about 3 or 4 years ago. Like a light bulb went on. It was like an epiphany moment. It was like a lightning strike and it was really random. I was like, I want a motorcycle. And I also had like, all right, you're in your mid 40s, you're having a midlife crisis, let it breathe. This is just, it's a momentary lapse of reason. It wasn't, because it hasn't gone away for 4 years. And I'm like, you just want a motorcycle. Now I'm thinking, I know everybody's first question is like, you thinking Harley, you thinking Japanese bike? Guys, come on. I'm an Akira fan from 1987. Yeah. What kind of bike do you think I'm thinking of? And there's just something about that top down, being out in nature and getting from point A to point B. And I'm not talking about going to the grocery store, but like taking a trip for a couple of hours. But lately I'm thinking, you know what I really want to do? I want to get a bike and I want to take it across country. I want to see what that feels like. I always wanted to go cross country and I've wanted a motorcycle of late. How cool would it be to ride a motorcycle cross country with some companionships, a friend or two on, via bike too? I think that would be amazing. And it's not a stuntman, speed junkie type thing, sort of like the skydiving thing. It's really more of like the experience of being out in the open air, seeing the country from your motorcycle without that glass in your face. Just being out there in the elements, taking that journey, being so close to the open road. There's really, like, I just got it. I never got motorcycles. And then all of a sudden I just got it. There was seemingly no rhyme or reason to it. I just understood it. And I was like, I have to do this before I kick the bucket. Before I buy the farm, I have to do this motorcycle thing cross country. And then my other one, before I hand it over to you guys, that's a little more of a, sort of a shallow hobby type thing, is I always wanted to surf. And I have this vision in my old age of just becoming a straight up surfer. We know we want to move somewhere warm. We know we want to end up somewhere near the ocean. I just see having, hopefully the 2-car garage, 3-car garage. And part of that, have the sawhorses, my board up there, waxing it. I just want to have that daily, God bless, I hope this comes true, run to this, be within stone's throw of the beach, be within earshot of the ocean, take my surfboard, go surfing every morning at the crack of dawn, and just be, because I have no idea. I've only surfed a handful of times in my life. I found it very difficult. It's been a long time, but I've seen myself, I think, taking that skateboarding part of me into my old age. That's probably the best way to do it without dying. So there's that. That's the, and then, if I have those high level things I think about with my kids, I'd love to live long enough to enjoy my grandchildren. That would be a blessing. Or, just seeing my children grown and established and happy. That would be the highest level thing. And of course, I would trade all the other things for that. And then super tall order, before I hand it over to you, Dust, is how cool would it be dying, maybe, hopefully many years from now? It's going to take a while for this one.
How cool would it be dying?
Not dying.
That's a question for Colin. He's all about that.
Let me rephrase that. If I die, and again, this is a tall order, so this is going to take time, I think, in this world. But many years from now, on my deathbed, if I could just breathe a sigh of relief as I go out, that racism finally ended. Right?
Wow.
Sounds hokey, sounds corny, but besides my kid wish for the kids and grandkids, I would trade all the other ones for that, man. Just being able to go out knowing that my kids inherited a better place without this bullshit judging each other on our skin color crap. That's just like ridiculous. If I could just go out, that would be my bucket list item. Is like, wow, like that's so sick. Somebody could live their whole life and not have to deal with that. Again, sounds corny, but from my heart of hearts, that's what I love that. I mean, that would be the answer to my prayers, right? That would be the ultimate. So I hand it over to you, Dustin. Where do you guys go with the bucket list thing?
This is a weird one for me because it's not something I think about too often. And I think that maybe it has increased more so in the last 10 years for me, in that in your early 20s, I know this is so minimal because I'm not even 30 yet, but in the early 20s, you think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then when you hit 25, you're like, oh, kind of haven't done those things I thought I would do this decade. And now at 29, it's like, oh, those things that you think will just happen don't necessarily always just happen. And that's okay. Some things that I wanted to do, you realize you don't need to do, you don't want to do, or you shouldn't do. So it can be a bit of a blessing and a curse. But for me, I thought of 3 things: one serious, one typical, and one off the wall. My typical one is like you, Dagan. I want to go to Japan very, very badly. That's the thing. That's the place I want to go. I was very blessed to be able to go to Europe when I was in 2nd grade. My uncle lived over in France, so we got to go to Paris. Got to see a lot of cool stuff there. Cool. I'd still love to go back to Europe, but it's not high on my list or anything like that. Japan really is the place, though, for sure. I mean, obviously, of course, there's the anime and video game aspect of it, but just seeing the beautiful countryside, the castles, the just how it's weird because it feels like the US in that it's, modern cities and stuff like that. It's not like going somewhere that's, more 2nd or 3rd world or anything like that. But it's totally different at the same time. It's like an alternate reality, and people treat each other differently and have different values and stuff like that. So Japan is really high for me on the bucket list. The serious answer, and this isn't something that I'm worried isn't going to happen, but I want to have a family. I want to have kids. So that's something that's very important to both Holly and I. And, we're late 20s now, so it's definitely something that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. But yeah, I want to have kids of my own, be able to have Dagan's bucket list of being, having your kids be successful in their own right. And a big thing for me in that is just thinking about how important my parents were for me, and being able to be that person for someone else is really exciting and appealing. So that's the serious one. And then to end off the least serious, I have a bucket list item that I want to own a house that has a finished basement. That's the dream for me. Growing up, I talked about with my parents being really young, being at my grandparents' house. They had an awesome finished basement. It had like the racks of CDs that my grandpa had at the top. We had giant CRT. That's where the gaming was. Got the PlayStation 1, the Nintendo 64. Me and my uncle, who I've mentioned before, he's 3 years older than me. So we were kind of like brothers growing up, playing all these awesome old games in the basement. And then too, if you go to a friend's house, that the basement, the finished basement, was always the place to hang out. That's the kids' place. And so I have this dream of having a finished basement where I can put all my video game collection, kind of have I don't know. I don't really like the term man cave. It sounds like you got to have a beer sign up and,
no women allowed.
No women. Yeah, that's not like that. I just like having this idea of a cozy, cool place where, and it's funny because I've turned my whole house into a finished basement that there's video game stuff everywhere. But I don't know. I like this kind of set apart place where it's purely just for hanging out and playing games, watching movies, stuff like that. It'll happen at some point. I feel bad. People in the South can't even do that necessarily. No basements.
Yeah, we have no basement here in Virginia.
So
not in this part of Virginia.
Yeah, that's the dream. Hopefully at some point. I didn't even mention this when we were talking about buying a house. Holly and I have lightly looked around at new houses in the past week or two, and we've just decided it's not the right time. We're just going to look again in a year or two or something because
you're good for now.
Yeah, we're good. If you own something, you shouldn't.
Yeah, we have a great place. It's just I don't know. You want to have the finished basement. You want to think about the possibilities, but I'm happy where we are. So yeah, that's mine.
What about you, Matty?
Good ones.
Yeah, when Dagan concluded, I suddenly felt very self-centered because I was like, well, that's a great one that I would want too. But I was just like, everything was about me. But I'll go with my original list. As a creative person, I think when I saw Dagan's topic, immediately my head went to, I think I'm devoting a lot of my life. I've kind of concluded to just trying to have this. It will sound egotistical, but I don't mean it in the shower me with glory kind of way, but leave a legacy behind in the industry that gave me so much. So like, I love games and I love anime and I love all this stuff. And I think of how can I contribute in so many ways? Cause I'm not like a jack of all trades person. I have specific talents that can only get me so far. It's not like I can just go, I'm going to go animate my own movie. Yeah, I'm going to do that. No, I can't. So, it's idealistic, but I'm on the pathway to one. Like one of my bucket lists was to make my own game, and we're on that track, and I'm really excited about it because it's kind of like this special process. And Colin, I'm sure you can relate, like watching it come together over time and just seeing. Like I can't wait to one day just show people like our starting image and then our final image because it's just insane already, and we're a year and a half in, not even, and so that's really number one on my list. Like, and to be south of 30 and kind of be in that zone, like I feel pretty comfortable because there are like simple ones, right? If you will, like that most people have, like buy a house, right? We're on track for that. So, number one is to make and release a video game and to continue from there and to continue to do that because, hopefully people will see we have something valuable to offer. And if things go well, I don't say it all hedges on this, but when you make a world, I'm not of the school of thought. Like I think today's media is that like, you've got to have a universe and it's got to be like 80 games and 10 movies and 5. It's like,
dude, I saw the Star Wars thing where they're doing a movie 25,000 years in the past. It's like, shut up.
I didn't see this.
See, that's actually appealing to me, though. Not to get into Star
that.
Wars talk, but at least it's something different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
they're bringing back Daisy Ridley too, so the new stuff's happening too.
That's what makes me mad.
Yeah,
are they really?
I know a lot of people are, but see, that's the thing. I'm just clearly a mark for Star Wars because
anyway,
like,
it doesn't matter.
Give me more of that. But I think in my eyes, very few franchises should be afforded that privilege, and I think Star Wars is one of those that can do it and get away with it. In my very biased eye, but when I'm making, I don't anticipate being that. But there are, I feel the room is created for side stories that could be explored, and I'd love to help direct a manga to see that maybe turn into an animation one day. If it obviously it needs to find success from that, but those are like dreams of mine to kind of be involved in all of these creative spaces because I think my main goal is and it stems from just solely me having very limited thinking of myself and not thinking highly of myself is you very quickly put yourself in this mental box, like who you are, who you're going to be. And I'm going to sound like Shia LaBeouf, like don't let your dreams be dreams. But it is one of those thoughts where I want to show people you can transcend, you can be a YouTuber and talk about what's coming out in games and then go and make your own. Like, you don't have to pick a lane. Like, I feel like today's industry is very rigid, very pick your own lane and stay in it. It's like, I want to break barriers. I want to show you can be in all these things. And so, again, it sounds egotistical. Like, I want to be that guy. I want to show that other people can be those and do it far better than me. But like, just be that step forward to see, like, if you've tracked my journey, be like, yeah, he did that. I can do it too. Because I don't find myself super talented. I just find myself determined, which is different. So, that's like bucket list number one, which is, it's a lot of different dreams, but all kind of wrapped in one. There are more simple ones, I'd say. Like, I want to live in Japan for a stretch of time. I much like Dustin, I have this appreciation for Japanese culture. And as I get older and I see the ways of the world, I appreciate it more and more. Just the kind of inherent built-in respect for one another that the Japanese people have. I noticed this when watching baseball. I watched, I think Japan won a tight game against, I want to say it was maybe Mexico in the World Baseball Classic. And you saw a Japanese fan who was celebrating their win come and hug a fan from Mexico. And I was like, that's what it's about, right? Like, that's the sport of baseball, but like, that to me is very indicative of Japanese culture and the kind of respect they have for even their adversaries. And like, I was watching this pregame speech Shohei Ohtani was giving out, and he said something along the lines of like, we always admire what American baseball is. Let's drop our admiration for one game and play as equals. And I was like, that's like such a respectful level of trash talk. So I just want to be ingrained in that culture a little bit more. I don't mean to idolize it too much, but I do want to live as a part of that and see what it's like. A lot of people have the infatuation with the more Japanese city life, but if anything, Persona 4 made me more interested in the country life, right? Like, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, like the country life of Japan. Yeah, go to Junes and hang out with Yu Narukami and all that shit. The country lifestyle. Like, when I look up Japan, like places to live, and I do those video tours online, that could have been one of my answers for YouTube rabbit holes. Is like watching people walk around and live in these foreign countries and whatnot. But I love the Japanese countryside. So to be able to reside there for a stretch of time would be great. Because as a creative person, I guess it all funnels back to that, which is, how do I, you're only as good as your life experiences, and broadening your horizons and seeing the world and seeing culture and how people behave. And maybe I'm just too deep for my own good at times, but I think all that stuff kind of funnels back to where I want to be. I think otherwise, I'd love to learn another language. I recognized as I went through my list, I was thinking, like I have this really big dream goal, and then everything else is kind of basic. Like, it's a very unimpressive list of dreams to have. But yeah, I think because what Colin said, I lived below my means for so long, I don't find myself wanting for a lot of times. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm an ambitious person, but I'm very happy with the life I have. Like, to me, to as I said at the start of this show, to own a house and have all this space, like, that's a dream. Beyond that, just to have a library dedicated to reading manga and stuff, like, that's so friggin' cool to me. I love that stuff. So, there are more that would come to mind. I'd love to. This one's really weird. I'd love to open. My fiance is a really talented artist, and she does the occasional tattoo design. And there's one she did that was phenomenal. And she wants to, she's toyed with the idea. She's so talented that she's just having trouble picking a lane, I feel, to just explore and start a business. But she's toyed with the idea of making like a tattoo parlor. And for me, a big foodie, like, I love cooking and making stuff. And I've always loved the idea of running a deli, kind of like just running an honest local deli.
Cool.
And if we could do like a combo where like you could come in, like, I'll, part of the package deal of like getting the tattoos, I'm going to come out like, hey, you want a sandwich?
I love this.
Very Southern.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, yeah, exactly. Like, two kind of unrelated things that give the place an identity, a culture, a personality. Like, it's a local hotspot. Like, maybe you'll read about it online once or twice. Yeah, I just love the idea of running a deli though, because like I'm sure as New York boys you can relate. Like Cat's Deli is one I think of. Like I just love the reputation.
I worked at our local deli in high school. That was my high school job.
Yeah, like I just love the idea of a local deli. So I love to run one and name all the sandwiches cool things and have like a special local one that like, you can only find here. It's really like the talk of the town. That's definitely my like off the wall. I'm done creating shit and I want to go only create food now type of goal. Maybe like retirement area. I guess I'm not retiring, right? But like, I'm winding down now. I'm shutting off the creative side of my brain because I don't know when that'll be. That's the thing is like,
I think about that too.
I have such a long way to go and I'm so excited about it. I'm like, where is the end? It's like, okay, you're setting up your own game development company. It's like, you don't just shut that off. Like, that's what you think about when you start those ventures. It's like, that's a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime. Do you want to dedicate that? It's like, okay, well, when do you stop? When do you pass the torch? Who do you pass the torch to? Do you have the team to believe in for that? So many things go into it. So I wonder at times what goals I'll truly get to because it's such a long road. But yeah, I guess I'm very excited for the future. So I appreciate this topic a lot.
Yeah, for me, it's part of me feels like I've climbed some of the mountains that I've wanted to climb. Does it bother you guys that I'm the least weeby of the four of you and I've been in Japan multiple times?
Yeah, is it like just whatever to you? Like you just been there?
No, I'd love to go back, but I've been, I've done it a couple times and it's awesome. But for me, I think I was lucky enough to travel to some places that I don't feel this need to really go anywhere. I've said many times, it's very American, but if I never left the United States again, I'd be totally fine. I wouldn't give a shit. To be perfectly honest with you. I've been to Europe 3 times. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Canada. I've been to Asia. I've been, so I feel pretty good. There's nowhere else I really want to go, but except for I do have, well, let me back up and say that there are goals I have, but I don't consider them bucket list things, right? So I want to have a house. Like when I build my next house, I want to build like a mountain house, but I want it to be like mega modern. So it has all the modern amenities wherever, but it's just in the middle of nowhere. And that's not really a bucket list thing. I'm going to do that if I can keep, the success going with all of this sort of thing. And that's to Matty's point where my mind really is and has been for years. It's just hyper focused on maintaining the success of Last Stand and earning it because it could end at any time. And you want to make sure you're being wise with all of those things. And we were talking about that earlier with my mitigation of even wanting to spend very much money, even though I do pretty well. So I think I'm just trying to like plan for that hopeful eventuality where I can do something like that and strike and build that new house or whatever. But that's not really a bucket list thing. So I'll say 2 bucket list things that I have, one more minor and one major, but both that I truly intend on doing. And if I knew I was going to die next week or whatever, I would definitely do one of these right now, which is I've always wanted to go to Easter Island. And to go there, you have to go to Chile and then you have to fly to Easter Island. They own Easter Island. If you guys read about Easter Island, I'm not really into Polynesian history whatsoever, but Easter Island's strange. A lot of strange shit happened there even before, like the story goes that when it was discovered in the 17th century in quotes and the 18th century really by European explorers, something had already happened there. And they themselves found their way there from other Polynesian islands and potentially from South America itself. Like I've said in the past, one of the weird things is that their word on Easter Island for sweet potato is the same as the word for sweet potato in South America, meaning that there was contact between them. And there would be no way that sweet potato could have even gotten there without having been visited there. But of course, they're best known for those crazy, I think they're called moai or whatever. The statues?
Yeah, this is interesting. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, and basically what ended up happening is it was like a forest covered island that was basically deforested by its own people. They fought some crazy civil war and all of this, and the aftermath is what the Europeans found. Like they found them when they were done building those things. In fact, a lot of them are tipped over because there was like a civil war where they were like fighting and they were tipping over their idols and shit like that.
This is so cool.
So I've always wanted to go there, and I will do that. That's like a place I want to go. But the other more major thing, and this is, I said at the top, I intend on doing both of these things, and I mean it, is I want to go to space. And as long as I live long enough, I'm going to space. And I'm not saying I'm going to go to the moon or go to Mars. That would be fucking dope. Especially going to the moon because it's not very far away. But I'm going to go into space. I want to go into at least a low Earth orbit, be weightless, look down at the Earth, look at space, unencumbered from the atmosphere, do all of those things. And that's becoming a real possibility. I mean, it's not out of reach at all. in the coming decades. People are already doing it. So that's like a more major bucket list. If I live long enough, would like to do that. Now, would I really want to go? I don't think I'd really want to go to Mars. Ultimately, it's so far away. It just requires, I don't even care about the danger. That's something that's inherent to it. It's just so far away and you have to stay there for a really long time to get back.
Right.
Because you're only matched up with Earth and Mars in their orbits every 3 years or so. So if you go, you're basically going to be gone for about 5 years. And that's a long time.
It's incredible.
And you're probably not going to come back, by the way. So at least early on. But going to the moon, so I don't know if you guys saw, they announced the crew for Artemis 2, which I was so excited about. And it's a 4-man crew. 3 Americans and a Canadian, and they're popping around the moon next year, and it's going to be so exciting. And I would do something like that in a heartbeat. I would do if they're like, Colin, we got a 5th seat on Artemis 2. You want to come for the ride? I'd be like, absolutely. And I would be there tomorrow. So
it's awesome.
So that's the big bucket list thing for me. Is I love space and I want to go and just at least feel it. If not, be able to maybe see it one day. But I don't know how Mass Effect things are going to get before I die one day. So those are my things. And obviously I have bigger things too, but these are, again, just happenstances. For instance, if the Jets ever made the Super Bowl, I would almost certainly go to that Super Bowl. But that's not a bucket list thing because I can't really control it. So if it happens, it happens. Right. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, this year we're focusing on maybe the first home Jets playoff game in 23 years. I wasn't even a fan of the Jets in a really big way when they last played their home playoff game. So I want to go to that too. But those are things that you have to kind of wait to be presented to you. So I hope
you're lucky enough, all that stuff.
Right. Like I've been to Islander playoff games and all of that. I've gotten that done. That was cool. So I want to do that with the Jets. But yeah, who knows if I'll have the opportunity. I mean, if I had died in the last 13 years, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to a Jets away playoff game. Nonetheless, a Jets home playoff game. So you have to really wait for these things to be presented. And in fact, now that the Sacramento Kings have clinched the playoffs in the NBA, the Jets now have the longest playoff-less streak in professional sports in the United States.
Wow.
I
believe it.
Yeah, because the Kings hadn't made the playoffs since 2006, which is crazy. And before that, I think it was the Mariners. And
now the Mariners are great.
Right. Exactly. But they were like, I remember the Mariners being awesome in the 90s, Ken Griffey and all of that, but not afterwards. No. Edgar, what was it? Edgar Rodriguez? Was that his name? Edgar. Who was that great Edgar something that played for the for that very same Mariners team? I can't remember anything anymore. And of course, Randy Johnson, like a young Randy Johnson on the Mariners during that era too, which was pretty cool. All right. That was a great topic and a great episode of Constellation, my friends. Let's go around the horn one more time and say goodbye. Matty, goodbye to you.
Goodbye. Thank you for having me. This was a fun one, and I appreciate all the house advice, gents. I feel like my concerns are a bit more at ease, that I may be overthinking it. That's the story of my life, but yeah, much appreciated on that, and it was another really fun one. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for taking the time. Dustin, goodbye to you.
Goodbye. Thank you for having me here once again. I'm about to go to a local Pittsburgh chain called Burgatory for dinner.
I feel like anytime I wrap up a show with you, Dustin, you have a Friday plan. Like I remember you used to be a big food truck guy, right? Like I think that.
Oh yeah, for Foodie Friday here in downtown. That hasn't started yet this year,
okay.
But that will soon. But Burgatory, Mario movie. I'm pumped.
Oh, I knew you were dressed for the occasion. I had a feeling.
I know, yeah, dude. I had to wear the shirt. Okay, why not?
It's like wearing a band T-shirt at the band show, though.
Yeah, right. No, it's fine. It's okay.
Fair enough. I have unpopular going to show opinions anyway. So, Dagan,
we both do apparently.
Yeah, apparently. I've been a. Well, it doesn't matter. I can't even get into it. That's actually another thing I was thinking about with bucket list is like I've seen all of the bands I've wanted to see too. With the most part, that would have been possible, which is good. So nothing there either. But Dig, goodbye to you. Closing comments.
Yeah, I hear the Mario movie's good. I was telling myself secretly, not so secretly, that I would have my animation podcast ready to talk about this movie. That came and went. So that guy didn't tell anybody except myself for that one. But I hear the movie's good. And I'm really rooting for Illumination because I feel like they need to become a household name like Pixar.
Oh, well, they're gonna clean up on this.
Dude, the movie.
Do Minions, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty big.
Yeah, I feel like they were getting there anyway, but this will certainly push them over the edge into Pixar.
Apparently, Nintendo's looking into doing more with them, which would make a lot of sense.
It would make a lot of sense. Absolutely, my friend.
I couldn't care less about that movie, to be honest, but I'm glad that people are excited about it.
You're going to watch eventually or no?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think? Not even like when it comes to Amazon?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, I just feel like because like there was a time where whenever you saw a video game IP of any kind entering the theaters, it was guaranteed this is going to be terrible,
cringe.
But the fact that now we're at that stage where this will be watchable and enjoyable is, I don't know. I feel like I'm just embracing that time because I feel like it's got to be short lived, but maybe it's only going to keep getting better.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good. I mean, it's easy to do with Mario. Let's see what the next challenge is. Something interesting I heard that I should have thought about but didn't is that this is gonna, if Nintendo keeps going with their hardware and software, this will be eventually what a Mario game looks like. And I thought that was a really interesting point. It's like,
probably.
Which is a really, it's gonna, they're
gonna need way more powerful hardware, but yeah.
They're generations away probably from
Switch
making
Pro.
it look like this. But really interesting. I'm gonna go down a YouTube rabbit hole as soon as I hang up with you guys. Play this game. We got to get Matty on board for this. When you start YouTubing for the night, remember where you started and see where you end up, and see how crazy that journey was, that arc that you took, because it gets disturbing.
Yeah, people do that with Wikipedia. People do that with Wikipedia, and that's fun.
Yeah, that's.
All right, my friends. Well, it's time to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for your time, your love, and your kindness. Appreciate all of you guys out there for listening to Constellation and all things Last Stand Media. Hope you enjoyed our show. We'll see you next time for more. Until then, goodbye.
See ya.
Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.